My lovely colleague Jim Dawson is going to take you through what Visicent's been doing in terms of our marketing our destination. So over to you, Jim.
So in terms of the way that we market experiences and the way that we market sustainable experiences, it comes down to the basic key factors that we employ for all aspects of marketing, really. So that is, pictures, visuals, words that we use, and the delivery of a simple and authentic message. Through the Experience Project, we have been very fortunate to be able to capture lots and lots of new imagery of the experiences that have been developed. From my perspective as a marketeer, this has been an absolute dream and a treasure trove, because we're always desperate for real quality imagery to get stale so quickly. And because so many of the experiences that are being developed on the programme have that strong sustainable element to them, there's been a bit of a mixed blessing. So there have been some challenges for the photographers and the videographers to be able to try and capture that and to be able to tell some of that story. But also there is a richness there. So it hasn't been impossible. I think we'll agree that there's a small selection on the screen here, but if you see the kind of things that we've been able to capture, some of that authentic and sustainable messaging really shines through in the content we've been able to acquire. The website sits as at the heart of everything that we do from a marketing perspective, and it's often the first real point of contact with the audience. And so we've been able to capture the imagery that we've got and to be able to present that via the web pages that we've delivered, that we've developed in a really engaging way. And to be able to pull together the information that is required in order to be able to inform people, not just about what they can expect from experiences, but also to weave in those messages around sustainability and around the impact that the providers have. But we get to the most important point now, and this is the critical element when it comes to marketing, not just experiences and not marketing anything, but also marketing that sustainable element to it as well. And that is the people. So I've written here that people are the experience. But one of the most important things to remember is that sustainability is about the actions of people. It isn't about a policy or a procedure. It's about what people do and how they do it. So the three people that you can see on the screen here, I can introduce them to you. We've got Jill with the fan. She runs Bright Moon Tai Chi. We've got John in the middle. John comes from Canterbury Brewers and Distillers. And then we've got Joe on the right-hand side, Joe Bones, who does falconry and archery and shooting and some wonderful outdoor pursuits of that kind. Now, in marketing the experiences that they offer, the thing that stands apart and makes it so much easier are the individuals, the people that you see on the screen here, because when they engage with the consumers and people actually go and visit them and spend time with them, they develop a bond and they develop a relationship, and it's the time that they have, the enjoyment that they have, spending time with these people that makes the difference. Now, from a sustainability perspective, it's the actions of these people that have the real profound impact in terms of sustainability. Not just where John sources all of the ingredients and the raw materials for the beer and the spirits that he develops, but also the passion that he has for that approach. And when he does his tastings and he invites people into his brewery and his distillery, and he talks to them about the processes and he talks to them about that approach that he has, that enthusiasm and that genuine love for what he does and where he sources his ingredients and how he approaches his production absolutely shines through, and it rubs off on the people that come and enjoy the experience and sample these products, and they then become infused, and they then become ambassadors they actually want to share that message. They want to tell John's story. That is the critical element in terms of promoting and marketing sustainable activities. Telling the stories of the people who are doing it, the people who are actually doing things in a sustainable way, and getting that story told. Because once you tell a simple story with a simple message, people will retell it, and it will spread, and it will become viral, and then they do the work for you. So in terms of the approach that we are adopting at Visit Kent, in order to be able to take these experiences to market and to present the wonderful sustainable activities and approaches that people are adopting, it very much centres on understanding who the people are, who's at the centre of that, and tell their story via the words and the pictures that we're able to acquire and write. I probably talked. I know I was very short slot, and I do have a tendency to run away with things. So I shall stop there, and I will be participating in the workshop. So if anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. And yeah, throughout the day, if anybody has any questions for me, do please come and say hello. Thank you very much.
I'd like to hand over to Graham Jackson from the Travel Foundation. Graham's been a huge support to us over the last few years to help our businesses develop their sustainability policies and to roll that out and really embed it in what they're doing. So I'm going to hand over to Graham.
So I've been given the full task of talking to you about sustainable nations. But before I do that, I'd just like to know if any of you can give a definition of what a sustainable destination is.
Yes.
What are the features of a sustainable destination? This is a question that we get as well, sort of tied up in knots. What I'd really like to talk about today, and certainly in terms of my interpretation of sustainable destination, one that is through an unparalleled experience in the last couple of years. We've really felt the pressures of the pandemic, of having to adapt, having to flex, having to change the way that we operate. So rather than spending my time today talking about what sustainable destinations are, resilient destinations are, I want to just talk about maybe how we can start to look at some of the trends that are out there, some of the perhaps the threats that we have to our destinations, and how we can sort of respond to some of these through our destination market. So we've been looking, particularly in the last couple of years, at a lot of new information that's come through, as I'm sure all of you have, and how the tourism sector now responds to changing market trends, changing consumer trends, and I've tried to distill some of this into this short presentation. So we know that from a perspective of business as usual is probably no longer a thing. It's business as unusual these days. Companies are having to be much more flexible. We're having to look at things like different booking patterns, different expectations of consumers in terms of cancellation policies, in terms of booking last minute, and companies have to be very adaptive to survive. This is a really key feature for me in terms of the sustainable tourism sector. It's having that flexibility, having that room for innovation that can allow you to be more flexible, that can allow you to respond to those crises, those threats in the future. We've also seen a lot of pressure from consumers and from shareholders, in fact, from insurance companies and all directions around things like climate and equity. So this is very important. We respond in our marketing to these issues. How are we our destination of the world? How are we talking about what we're doing in relation to some of those challenges? We know that there are also new opportunities that have been born out of the last couple of years. Things like nomadic workforces. Everyone can work from home now, it seems. So why not come and work in a lovely destination and spend some time really experiencing what it has to offer you? But also some of these things can present challenges. We're talking about things like the growth of sharing economy. There's new challenges in our destinations. We want to spread the impacts of the positive impacts of tourism around our destinations. We want people to discover places that perhaps haven't been discovered before, but equally that can put pressure on places. It can stimulate issues like overcrowding. We've got to be very mindful of that. Marketing plays a really critical role in resilience of a destination. There's so many fine marketing lines in tourism. I think we've got lots of them in this room today. That the opportunity for having a positive impact on the destination is huge. But we've got to ask ourselves quite a few questions to make sure that our marketing efforts are actually contributing to positive impacts on tourism places, as opposed to creating or spreading problems. So, these are some key questions to ask yourself when we're looking at your destination and how you market it. Is your strategy, does your USP align with evolving trends? Are you also looking at opportunities, as we probably did throughout the pandemic, around the domestic opportunity as well? So how are you ensuring your communities are not just benefiting from tourism, but also can participate in tourism? Respond to trends and interests like nature, health and well-being. I think we've seen quite a few good examples of that already today. Are you demonstrating that you're really taking sustainability in its broadest sense seriously? If we're going to make claims around being a sustainable destination, we've got to be very careful that we're not greenwashing, that we can actually substantiate those sustainability claims that we're making. Because if we don't, then we'll get found out. There are lots of good examples out there of destinations that are supporting resilience and sustainability of their destinations through marketing, and in turn attracting new visitors and contributing in positive ways to to their tourism businesses and their communities more broadly. So I'd like to give you an example, a very strong example from Europe. Visit Flanders. These Travel for Tomorrow initiative, which was launched a few years ago, really tried to reinvent how to market their destination. The idea was really to try and move tourism away from simply growing to more of a regenerative state. So the operating model for tourism in Flanders now seeks to really optimise the benefits of all stakeholders, as opposed to just concentrating those benefits for a few stakeholders. So really focusing on things like measuring impact on business, the community, the environment, and trying to hold all of these things in balance. So the purpose of their efforts, as I said, is really shifting from growth or just getting bigger to helping the destination develop its new potential and contribute to the whole destination. But that's not to say destination marketers should down tools or shift their efforts to just attracting fewer big spenders, but but to really try and understand the relative merits or value of different market segments of their destination for the businesses and for their community, and ensure their efforts are really focused on growing the right things, much as many of you have been doing through this software project. So, a couple of key questions just to ask yourself. Are your marketing efforts focused on driving volume or value for your destination? Marketing that really can deliver that value. Have you researched and looked into the relative costs and benefits for different markets, different segments, and prioritised the strategies and budgets accordingly? Do you have a local first approach to tourism? Do you take residents' input on the management and marketing of your destination? Ask that question. What is it you want from tourism? What are we trying to achieve? And how can we make sure that our marketing efforts are really tied into this? We're increasingly seeing examples of where this hasn't happened. We've got some really good examples from local pre-support residents pushing back against memberships and that guards. But we're also seeing good examples of where destinations are embracing the community, are listening to them, are trying to respond to their needs through their marketing. So we've got, whether it's Hawaii Tourism Authority's resident-led plans to tackle over tourism, Colorado's Restart Destinations project, which is seeking locals' input on the tourism's future there, or indeed Panama's $300 million push to integrate community-based experiences. Just a couple of weeks ago, the destination Vancouver Island reinvented itself as a social enterprise. So the host community very much being recognised as a stakeholder in the industry and generating revenues that will contribute towards the social good of the destination. So value is something that we at Travel Innovation can apply to lots of the brands. And you'll see here, pretty small. But these are the sorts of impacts that tourism can have on a destination, both positive and negative. So we can use some of these tools, some of these questions, just to really ask ourselves, how is our marketing contributing to the value of this? How do we define that value? We've actually done quite an interesting report a couple of years back with Cornell University called The Invisible Burden of Tourism. That's available free on our website. Have a look at that if you're interested in exploring this more. But when these value factors are aligned, this is where the magic happens. This is where we really start contributing to the community, to the sense of place, and the visitors will recognise this. It's very much sustainable destination through certificates, but some of the stories that we have heard, these are the kind of things that really connect with people. They see sustainability. You can't tell them what's sustainable destination. It's just in everything you do, how you present yourself to the world, how you work with you, and how the value of tourism is felt by that community. And these are things that the residents really will really value. So I just want to leave you, before I've got a couple of little examples of perhaps a good example of a sustainable marketing campaign, and perhaps one that's not so good. I'll leave you to draw your own conclusions as to why I think they are good. But I just want to leave you with a few questions to ask yourself in terms of marketing your own destination. Does your marketing strategy support, help alleviate impacts, help improve impacts on your destination? Does it help support management plan in place initiatives that you're running on the destination? This second question, I think you can already answer. Yes, you have been developing products, experiences, and stimulating visitors to spend on products and experiences that do benefit local suppliers and producers. So well done. Are you able to provide consumers with transparent, current information? Particularly important through the pandemic, but I think this is something that increasingly we'll continue with. Really helping us understand what's happening on a day-to-day basis. Probably the most important element of this are your marketing innovation strategies, really targeting those market segments that generate most valuable destination. And we're not just talking in terms of financial value, of course, we have to look at costs as well. Do your efforts reflect your diverse communities and support their needs? And make sure that your marketing looks like your destination, looks like your community, and make sure that it delivers for them. I'm going to finish now with a couple of short videos. I'm not going to tell you which one I think is the best or why I think that, but as I said, I'll leave you to do your work. Okay, so that's the day on that's a bit shorter. So last that one there we go. This is the other one. So you can see what you think.
The pursuit of happiness. Is that a worthwhile ambition? Searching for something or someone that will make you happy? Well, the question is happiness something that you can actually find? Well, and how do you know if you found it? Which one? No, I still got a hold on to. That is not a Wilson. Most revolution. She's an actress. Instead of searching for happiness, instead simply had to open ourselves up to. What's that word? Hola. We didn't put ourselves in a place where happiness finds you.
Okay, so I'll leave you to draw your conclusions from that. I think you probably see there's a bit of difference between the two as to how they're presenting their destinations. And hopefully you'll see some of that. The things I've been talking about coming out through those examples. I'm going to join the panel in a moment, so if you've got any questions you have for me. And I'll be hanging around throughout the day as well, so I'd love to have a chat with you if you've got anything you want to talk about in detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. I'm very tempted to do both, but maybe diplomacy will prevent us from doing that. I should have said at the outset, of course, that all of the slides will be available afterwards. Simon is nodding at me, yes. So I appreciate that the beautiful, blistering Kent sunshine is probably preventing a lot of you being able to see the screens very clearly, but we will share the slides afterwards. Our final presentation for the first session is from Bruno Lenon, who joins us from Morlaix. Bruno deserves a particular shout out because he came all the way from Morlaix by electronic car. So absolutely living a sustainable dream. Well done, Bruno.
Bonjour, donc Bruno, comme Morlaix, Bretagne. Je pense qu'il arrivera un jour qu'on sera plus félicité pour faire tant de distance avec un véhicule électrique, et là je pense qu'on aura fait une étape de plus. Alors je suis ici pour vous présenter une initiative qui a été lancée en Bretagne il y a 2 ans, qui s'appelle la charte du voyageur, et qui a été lancée par un acteur local et ensuite déployée sur l'ensemble de la Bretagne. Alors, la première idée est venue du golfe du Morbihan. Alors, pour les personnes qui connaissent un peu la Bretagne, c'est un peu le place to be. Évidemment, pour les visiteurs qui connaissent peu les joyaux de la Bretagne comme le Vénement. Alors, le projet, pour vous présenter le golfe du Morbihan, globalement, c'est une destination qui est très populaire, qui est très demandée, avec 2,8 millions de nuitées en 2021, qui était pour nous une année incomplète, pour savoir le secteur, on appelle ça le Morbihan, c'est en breton, c'est le seul département d'ailleurs qui porte le nom qui n'est pas français. Morbihan, ça veut dire petite mer. Donc c'est une petite mer avec plein d'îlots, donc c'est très spectaculaire. Mais sur le secteur, il y a une très grosse densité touristique. Et une pression immobilière qui est énorme et très importante, surtout depuis le Covid. Avec des sites naturels qui, malgré tout, restent fragiles. Donc, à un moment, les acteurs du tourisme se sont posé la question de savoir si le tourisme était encore bénéfique ou devenait néfaste pour la population locale et pour la nature locale. Donc, ils se sont posé la question de la perception. Alors, ils ont créé sur place une réflexion en se disant on va créer une charte. L'idée est de souhaiter la bienvenue aux touristes, mais également que cette charte intègre un mot pour les habitants, c'est-à-dire qu'on a des messages à faire passer aux habitants. C'est également un soutien aux partenaires et l'idée que la nature est précieuse. Tout ça doit être intégré dans cet exercice. Alors, la présentation de la charte, donc c'est de préciser que le tourisme, c'est de l'économie, ça crée de l'emploi, ça crée de la richesse. Et aussi, c'est une économie qui est forte. C'est-à-dire que, surtout dans le golfe du Morbihan, il y a un impact qui est énorme. On parle de 10% du PIB mondial pour l'économie touristique. Mais la question c'est de savoir quel est l'impact sur la diversité. Faut-il réguler le tourisme? Il y a certains endroits où, par exemple, on a des compteurs à montrer de certains monuments, il y a certaines villes, on pense à Prague, par exemple. Et également, quand on voit l'impact d'Airbnb, par exemple, sur Barcelone, on peut se poser la question sur l'impact sur la qualité de vie des habitants. Donc, se crée petit à petit une perception négative dans certains secteurs. Alors l'idée est de penser le tourisme avant de le subir. Alors ça c'est le développement qu'a fait Golfe du Morbihan Tourisme, Golfe du Morbihan Val. En 2018, ils ont créé un guide de marque. En 2019, ils ont créé un événementiel, c'est-à-dire qu'ils ont rassemblé un certain nombre de partenaires, ils ont appelé ça des hippocamps. En 2020, ils ont créé le livre blanc du tourisme, toujours en essayant d'expliquer quels sont les enjeux derrière le tourisme et comment il faut continuer à travailler ce secteur de l'économie. Et puis, pour rejoindre un peu les éléments avec la nature, ils ont fait un travail autour du voyage et de l'eau, parce que l'eau, la petite mer, le Morbihan, etc., c'est l'univers sur lequel ils travaillent. Alors, les objectifs de la charte, c'était d'éduquer, d'anticiper, d'innover, de créer un tourisme responsable, de mieux accueillir. Là, sous-entendu mieux accueillir, c'est pas uniquement les professionnels de l'accueil, c'est également les habitants, de responsabiliser les habitants et les visiteurs. Je pense que par rapport à la charte qui a été créée en Islande, par exemple, on était beaucoup plus sur un discours vis-à-vis des habitants également. Alors, ils ont écrit 10 déclarations à partir de 5 thèmes, la mer, la nature, la culture, le territoire et les mégalithes. Donc, les mégalithes, c'est historiquement des lieux essentiels du tourisme dans le secteur des lieux historiques. Donc la charte de voyageurs a été faite pour les visiteurs, pour les locaux et pour les résidents secondaires. Alors les résidences secondaires sur ce secteur-là, c'est énorme. Ce qui fait qu'il y a d'ailleurs des endroits où en plein hiver, les volets sont fermés, c'est déprimant. Ça, c'est pas partout, mais en tout cas, il y a des endroits où oui, c'est assez pour les inviter à partager, à redécouvrir la destination dans une logique responsable, par la suggestion de manière positive, sympathique, sans restriction et humoristique. C'est-à-dire que l'idée, c'était aussi de se moquer de soi-même. C'est-à-dire qu'on n'est pas simplement dans une déclaration de quelque chose de très formel. Alors, le principe, c'était d'avoir une conception partagée, pour qu'elle soit partageable, on va dire, le maximum, ensuite avec 40 associations, des professionnels locaux, des personnalités locales, des habitants et des collectivités. L'approche méthodologique, ils ont fait appel à un consultant qui a travaillé avec eux, et également, ils ont travaillé avec le Green Cross France. Alors, la charte se présente sous cette forme-là. C'est une dizaine de déclarations, quelques phrases, et ils l'ont diffusée alors, de la manière suivante. Sur la communication, donc la charte est présentée en version imprimée, on peut la récupérer en version imprimée, en version en ligne. Il y a également des versions pour les réseaux sociaux et une incitation de partage. La diffusion est faite par les professionnels en ligne, mais également une présence physique à l'accueil, c'est-à-dire que quand vous arrivez dans un établissement chez eux, vous avez ce document, en tout cas cet affichage, qui est sur une boîte, et qui est en deux formats, avec un présentoir, de façon à ce qu'on puisse le voir en arrivant avec eux. C'est la première charte d'un office de tourisme en France, donc c'est vraiment quelque chose de précurseur. Voilà, donc en 2022, ce projet, l'office de tourisme Golfe du Morbihan fait partie du réseau des offices de tourisme de Bretagne, dans lequel nous sommes également. Et donc en 2022, cette année, est en cours le déploiement de la charte au niveau régional. L'ensemble des acteurs de la Bretagne, des offices de tourisme, ont pris cette charte et l'ont transformée. Alors je crois qu'il y a une phrase d'un qui a été modifiée. et qui renvoie à la Bretagne plus qu'à un aspect local. Mais très peu de choses, c'est dire à quel point le travail a été extraordinairement fait au départ. Donc on a 60 offices de tourisme qui déploient l'outil maintenant sur l'ensemble de la région, avec un pilotage du réseau office de tourisme de Bretagne. Voilà. Et au niveau de la communication, donc, nous avons un site internet dédié. On a comment dire, la version imprimée en fait est faite à partir de bourriches d'huîtres recyclées. Donc c'est du bois recyclé. Et il y a également une version en audio-description. Alors je pense que ça ne va pas forcément apparaître sur le document parce qu'on a changé de format, ça nous, mais on peut donc écouter la charte et puis en version audio. On a une version braille également qui est en préparation, je crois. Ensuite, on a une version française, une version d'origine, deux versions en langue bretonne et langue gallo. La langue gallo, c'est la langue de l'Est de la Bretagne. Et 5 versions étrangères. Voilà, ce travail-là est en cours. Voilà, donc ce que je vous propose, comme Simon connaît très bien la Bretagne, je te propose de me rejoindre en seconde. On va faire un petit exercice. Parce que je pense que ces phrases sont quasiment impossibles à traduire, donc on va quand même lui demander d'essayer. Alors, les voyageurs ne vont pas pour du beurre. Ouais. Et en fait, on parle de beurre parce que le beurre, c'est sacré en Bretagne. La côte se montre plus sauvage que les habitants. On reçoit des vagues d'émotions même en pleine tempête. On grave chaque instant dans sa mémoire, pas sur les pierres.
We engrave our memories, and we don't need to engrave them on pebbles on the beach.
On ramasse ses déchets parce que c'est pas la même mémoire.
We have to recover our rubbish on the beach because otherwise it will stay there. Yeah. Getting coffee and I'll go with that one later. I'll ask the two experts in a minute.
On consomme local aussi naturellement que l'on savoure une tâche. On consomme local aussi naturellement que l'on savoure une tâche.
Right, we consume locally because that's what you do when you're eating crabs in Britain.
On pose volontiers la volée dans ses festivals.
Right. Festivals doesn't translate. Festivals is basically everybody in the village gets together at a big party, eats crepes and drinks coconuts and cider. That's the only way I can translate it. Festivals and lots of record music, and it's great fun. No, okay, you can't translate in French.
On contemple des malades d'aigrettes sur la pointe des
pieds. We can have a chance to count the egrets that we can see in front of us on fingers of one hand. No? She'll correct me in a minute. Oh, thank you.
On retrouve sa liberté sans s'échapper des sentiers de randonnée.
We can find freedom without escaping from the main coastal path.
La rencontre est exceptionnelle, se partage avec elle.
And the exceptional meetings you can have here, we share a great pride.
Yeah.
Do I get a French exam there? C'était pas prévu. Non, non.
C'était un exemple formidable de collaboration entre les agences de tourisme et aussi les résidences. I think a really great example, an easy example, I think, of what we can all emulate. I think the balance between, you know, the economic benefits of tourism and respecting the landscape and supporting our local community, I think is something that is a very real change us as destinations. I was particularly struck as well by Graham's point about the sort of locals first, and I would say also local first. I think the more we can support our local producers, celebrate our local culture and communities, I think it invites our residents to engage with tourism, to recognise the huge advantages to the community of tourism. It's also what a lot of our visitors want to do. They want to experience that fantastic local food, those amazing cider drinking, parties, crepe eating extravaganzas. And I have to say, having a number of pleasure to be back on in Gulf War, I can heartily recommend the crepes, the cider, and the dancing. I think one project that we've been obviously all giving a lot of thought over the last few years to both our environmental responsibilities, but also throughout the period of lockdown, when people have re-engaged with their local communities, how we can support them to do so well and safely. And we have a phrase in the UK countryside code called respect, protect, enjoy, and both the Kent AONB and ourselves at Visit Kent have been using that as a way to celebrate our beautiful landscape, but also to ensure that people are treating it with respect. So I'm now going to invite our speakers back to the wonderful chairs. I need to give a little bit of a shout out to the venue that we're in, because this, again, we are slightly living a sustainable dream. So this is a very relatively new venue. It's entirely built from sustainable materials. So a lot of the chairs that you're sitting in, I think, are been salvaged from local churches. Everything in this building has been recycled. You will see there's a number of businesses here. It's a great place for startups. But the really, I think, from a tourism perspective, really interesting thing about this building is twofold. One, the bar and the mezzanine upstairs, which does quite a lot of cool events, but also the space outside, which is open to the public, and there's a number of restaurants and pop-up food places. And what's happened is that a number of creative businesses that work here have started to collaborate because they're all having their déjeuner outside. And also it's engaged local people and invited people in. So it's quite an interesting space. There are some challenges, not least the fact that we are next to a train station. So I apologise particularly to the people at the back who are being rattled every time the southeastern fast train to London goes past. The last time we had an event here, one of my lovely colleagues, Raluca, was heckled by the train announcement. So far we haven't had that issue, which means, if I can just, if you just indulge me for a second, the other thing I wanted to say is a huge thank you to both the team from Kent AONB and also my own team, and particularly to Simon, who is now hiding somewhere, who has just, you know, the technology and just the organisation that's gone into today and the whole week has been phenomenal. So can you put your hands together just for join me, please, on what we would call in where I come from, the Westlife chairs. Absolutely. Bruno, are you going to come and join us?
Bruno.
Now, it will not be a shock to you that my schoolgirl French is probably, you know, probably vain enough not to wear the headset, but I might need Simon's help to translate for the audience Bruno's answers. Although your English is probably better than my French anyway, but we'll crack on. This is your opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to ask questions of the panel. But I will take Chairman's rights and kick us off. So I'm going to start with Graham, if I may. One of the challenges that we are all facing as destination leaders is that balance between wanting to grow our visitor numbers and certainly our visitor value, as you pointed out, but also keeping our residents on side. And you alluded to a number of those cases, those destinations across the world that it's suddenly experienced very strong resistance from their residents about the impact of tourism. So what would your advice to us as destination leaders be?
Thanks, Deirdre. Yeah, I mean, it is a big question that a lot of destinations are facing at the moment. There's been a lot of talk around, the shift from destination marketing organisations to management organisations, and I think that what we're starting to see is the destinations that are doing this successfully are redefining their goals with their community involvement. What tends to happen in some of the extreme situations I mentioned is people do not feel connected, they feel disenfranchised, because all they're seeing is you're just bringing more and more people here and it's causing new problems. It's not benefiting me in any way, I'm not seeing value. All I'm doing is having to share special places with increasing number of visitors, and I'm seeing more litter, I'm seeing more congestion. So by redefining what we're trying to achieve and doing that with communities involvement, and there are some destinations I mentioned, Flanders already, we're actually working at the moment with Vail in Colorado, projects to actually engage the community and define those value metrics that are important. Once you've got people kind of understand what it is we're trying to do, i.e. tourism can contribute economically, it can contribute to our community in other ways, and this is why we're trying to grow it, then it's a lot easier to have people on side. Because you can definitely see the benefits that tourism brings. Perhaps shops, experiences that locals can enjoy, restaurants, bars. People don't necessarily make a connection that these are things that are here not just for them, but also for visitors, or perhaps it could develop with visitors in mind. So it's trying to sort of achieve balance, really. I think that's the key. If you've got a tourism campaign that says we want to grow tourism by 20% for the next 10 years, but there is no messaging to the community about why you're trying to achieve that, what's in it for them, this is when you get these problems, this is when you get communication break down. So yeah, the value things are important because the other thing we know is that not all tourists bring the same benefits to a destination. We know that we've done several studies. Big spenders, everyone wants fewer visitors and bigger spenders. This is the logical leap. We know they have the biggest costs as well. So you need to be very mindful of what the actual cost-benefit analysis of your visitors are. If you can say we want to grow tourism by 2 million visitors a year, and these are the 2 million we want here, because they deliver this value for a destination, that's much better than just talking in abstract numbers.
It's really helpful. And interestingly, we recently quite often do a survey of our residents, and it's one of those pieces of research that sometimes you open to very slowly thinking, what are they actually going to say? And we've been really pleased that the understanding and support for tourism is really high, because they recognise that that's what supports the independent shop, that's what supports our cultural organisations. And I think probably because people have reconnected with their places during the pandemic, that understanding that our visitor economy, if I can use that word, support is good for not only our visitors coming in, but also the residents that are there. So the more I think we can do that, I agree with you, the better. I want to come to Bruno, if I may. I'm particularly interested in following on what Graham was saying that sort of contract almost between the destination and visitor about how they will behave, the fact that they will look out for the landscape, that they will pick up their litter. Since you've implemented the charter, what impact you've seen within your communities? What's the response from residents being to the charter? And are you getting more visitors, more environmentally friendly visitors?
Alors je suis un peu, comment dire, ça n'est pas la charte des voyageurs de mon secteur, celle du sud de la Bretagne, du peuple du Morbihan. Donc je n'ai pas l'idée de l'impact aujourd'hui de cette démarche directement sur les habitants. En tout cas, ce qui est certain, c'est qu'il y avait ce besoin sur ce secteur d'intervenir vers les habitants pour faire passer un message sur l'importance économique de ce secteur. Ce qu'on peut remarquer, mais là je le fais plutôt en tant qu'observateur breton et habitant de la Bretagne, c'est qu'il y a quelques années de ça, une quarantaine d'années, une cinquantaine d'années, on se moquait bien de savoir si on avait le droit ou pas d'aller avec une voiture sur la plage. Et quand on se baladait sur les sentiers, on pouvait traverser les dunes dans tous les sens, il n'y avait pas de problème, il y avait comment dire, ça ne gênait personne. De jouer au boule sur la plage, il y avait plein de choses qui étaient assez étonnantes dans les environs. Et en fait, petit à petit, il y a aussi une culture de la préservation de la nature qui s'est développée chez les habitants et qui est devenue naturelle. Je pense qu'il y a un respect de la nature qui existe du fait de forme de discipline qui s'est fait au fil des décennies. Et du côté des visiteurs, on sent, mais c'est presque les visiteurs qui le disent plutôt que nous qui leur demandons, on sent qu'ils sont dans une demande de respecter plus la nature, donc d'avoir un impact plus faible. Par exemple, il nous arrive dans l'office de tourisme de donner un document, et on prend le document en disant qu'il pourra servir à quelqu'un d'autre, j'ai eu l'information que je voulais. On sent aussi, alors il y a eu l'effet du Covid qui fait qu'on a eu moins de diffusion de documentation papier et moins de, je ne sais plus le chiffre en tête, mais on a dû augmenter de plus de 30% de documentation du site internet. Donc il y a vraiment une demande et la démarche, pour moi la démarche environnementale est une démarche de respect de la nature et d'avoir un impact sur l'environnement, mais c'est d'abord aussi une démarche marketing parce que la demande est là. Donc c'est très très fort. Et je pense, alors, je ne sais pas si c'est la situation dans laquelle, en tout cas en Bretagne, on ne vient pas en Bretagne, d'abord on ne passe pas en Bretagne, quand on va à une destination, on ne vient pas par hasard, comme disait le chez nous. On y vient parce qu'on veut venir en Bretagne, et on vient en Bretagne aussi pour rencontrer les gens. Je me souviens d'une intervention que j'avais faite dans le sud de la France, côté de Béziers, et en fait, les habitants avaient les responsables du tourisme localement disaient, mais en fait, ils viennent nous voir pour le soleil, c'est pas nous qui viennent voir, ils viennent voir le soleil, le sable, je regarde, j'ai la mer devant, et c'était un vrai problème pour nous. Pour nous, la culture fait partie de notre ADN, et il n'y a qu'à voir le cours de danse bretonne que les jeunes viennent en tête. Donc, c'est-à-dire qu'en gros, on vient pour tout ça. On vient à la fois pour cette nature qui est un peu sauvage et qui parfois il arrive, ça peut arriver, qu'il y ait des nuages au-dessus et qu'il y ait éventuellement un peu de pluie. Voilà, y compris en février, on n'est pas un abri qui passe devant nous non plus. Donc voilà, c'est des choses qui arrivent. Donc on ne vient pas uniquement pour quelque chose pour un loisir un peu passif. On vient pour être actif en Bretagne naturellement. C'est peut-être plus facile pour nous.
Thank you so much. I think I got most of that. But I think there's some really common threads there around the people that live in digital landscapes that are so proud of their environment. I'm actually worried about visitors coming in, but actually can help educate the visitor as they come in about how to look after the landscape properly. And also, I think your comment about, it sometimes rains in Britain. Well, welcome to the UK. I think we've all got that challenge around supporting people to think about holidays and memories and experiences in the wider sense of life. It's not just about going on the beach looking at the sea, but how we can all protect the environment that is so much a part of our marketing. So yeah, really, really helpful. Jim, I would come to you in terms of looking forward to the work that we're doing for Lonely Planet. And one of the reasons, of course, the Lonely Planet Award was given to us at Kent was because we had started on this sustainable travel journey, but we're only really starting it, if we were honest. How you adapt your marketing campaign to make sure that point around value, protecting the environment will be at the heart of how we maximise what is effectively a massive economic opportunity for us?
Good question. Put me right on the spot there. I think, one of the central tenets to what we hope to achieve is pride amongst Kent residents for the accolade that we've been given, the Lonely Planet accolade, and taking some about the community and them having pride in their destination. Because if you can foster and develop that pride and that desire to have a sustainable program, if that's the right word to use, then that radiates quite naturally across, and it makes it easier for me as a marketeer to capture that, because I don't have to try and generate it. It's not about falsifying it or trying to mock something up. Going back to what I was saying when I was presenting, it's about an authentic message being told simply. So in terms of how we as Kent are going to be looking to make the most of the opportunity we've got from the Lonely Planet accolade that we've been given, it's really about developing that authentic message so that it's coming from a very honest place, as opposed to being something that we're trying to fabricate, something that we're trying to mould to fit for purpose. Because then it'll have much more longevity to it as well. It's something that continues to build momentum as we go along. And I think it's going to be very important for us to make sure that whilst the Lonely Planet badge is for Best in Travel 2022, but we like to think that Kent is going to be Best in Travel for 23, 24, 25, and for many, many years to come. So it's about building that legacy. And being able to continue to deliver that legacy. I don't know if that's the question.
I think also may have some competition in the room for whether we're going to still do Best in Travel in the year to come.
Oh, that's right.
The other thing I think that was interesting talking about, in the UK we've talked about, a number of destinations have talked about leave-only footprints, and the residents with the, take your memories away, not careful for the beach. I think was there's so many common things coming out here. Any questions from the audience? Sorry, could you wait for the microphone for the translator?
Question for Bruno about the charter. I love the way that you use humour and the way that it gave a sense of place as well. It feels very much of the place and not just the nature but also the culture. And I can see some ideas for us for our Kent Downs Landscape Promise, which is in collaboration with rural businesses. Were there any challenges that you faced when creating this, communicating it, rolling it out, getting people on board and interested, that we might be able to learn from?
I think it's a question for you.
Oui, est-ce que vous avez eu le mal à retirer
les PME, les entrepreneurs et les autres pour venir avec vous dans l'initiative?
Alors, en fait, nous sommes des structures office de tourisme qui sommes naturellement en travail quotidien avec les entreprises. Donc c'est beaucoup plus facile pour nous. Et ce qu'on remarque aussi, parce qu'on va rentrer dans ce process de motiver les entreprises, on ne le fait encore, c'est que le Covid a eu un impact très important sur la relation qu'on a avec les entreprises. D'ailleurs, je précise aussi que le projet expérience également a eu un impact très important dans la création de valeur. Quand la première année Covid est arrivée, en 2020, on a organisé en fait une...
The nature, but also the culture.
But in terms of all the trials, we have we have a few different teams that do different things for the site. So we have a range team that do the physical work, but then really that sits within our business services team that doing the public promotion essentially on site. And that's where we put our time and efforts in terms of making them fully aware. Obviously the trails are there, they're trained in what's on site, and showing us on site and where best to do it. Things like the trampers, they're all trained. If someone wants to use a tramper, have to be inducted, and that's carried out by the shop staff or the duty manager on site as well. So they're fully aware of that, but they obviously promoted as part of our wider sort of offer. Thank you.
The laptop's gone.
Danny thought I was accusing me of stealing the translation. What's been really interesting about the work at Shore Country Park and the experience funding particularly is that once the funding enabled a few investments to go ahead, it gathered its own momentum. So it gathered its own momentum, and when we started to get some of frankly, what was really emotional feedback from families about being able to spend the whole day in nature, about their child being able to use a screen for the first time. It really caught the attention of some of the senior leaders and the politicians at Kent County Council, and suddenly, they should have been excited about it before, but it's that those sort of stories and testimonies really captured people's imaginations, and suddenly more funding was arriving, and there was more advocacy for more improvements. So experience funding really kick-started, all these access improvements in all parts across Kent. So it's been really fantastic. Okay, so our next speaker, who is Marjorie Levasseur, who is the Head of Management and Territorial Development for the Office National Forum.
Bonjour, bonjour à toutes et tous. Alors, je vais me présenter du coup pour les personnes qui ne me connaissent pas. Je suis Marjorie Levasseur, je travaille à l'ONF, l'Office national des forêts. L'ONF, c'est l'unique établissement gestionnaire des forêts publiques en France. Moi, je travaille pour l'agence de Picardie, donc c'est-à-dire que je travaille pour les forêts des départements de l'Aisne, de l'Oise et de la Somme. Du coup, vous avez un petit peu l'habitude de percevoir l'activité de l'ONF à travers les activités qui sont développées pour l'expérience. Là, aujourd'hui, je vais avoir un regard un petit peu plus macro et vous parler de la politique générale de l'établissement en matière d'accès et d'accessibilité aux forêts. J'espère que je ne parle pas trop vite pour les interprètes, si, un petit peu trop. Alors du coup, avant de commencer, je vais vous redonner un petit peu des éléments de contexte pour que vous puissiez resituer l'action de l'ONF dans la gestion des forêts françaises. Alors en rappel, parce que peut-être que certains connaissent déjà les chiffres, mais la forêt en France, elle représente 31%. On a 31% de surface boisée en France. La superficie a été multipliée par 2 en 200 ans et la France occupe le 4e rang des pays les plus boisés d'Europe. On a de la chance en France parce qu'on a une forêt qui est vraiment très très diversifiée. Au niveau mondial, on a 4 types de forêts. On a la forêt boréale, la forêt méditerranéenne, la forêt tempérée de plaine et de montagne et la forêt tropicale. En France, on a du coup 3 de ces 4 types de forêts. Donc les forêts tempérées de plaine et de montagne, c'est ce que voilà, la plupart des gens connaissent. Également la forêt méditerranéenne, et du coup un petit peu moins, c'est la forêt tropicale. Hein. Forcément, il faut pouvoir partir en outre-mer pour aller la découvrir. Donc c'est pas permis à tout le monde. Les Français aiment la forêt, vraiment énormément. Là, à l'écran, du coup, vous avez quelques chiffres qui vous donnent un peu la tendance. Donc, c'est issu d'enquêtes qui sont menées de façon régulière. Donc, c'est des chiffres quand même qui sont très parlants. 90% des Français déclarent aimer se promener en forêt. 9 Français sur 10 vont au moins une fois par an en forêt, donc c'est quand même des chiffres qui sont importants. Et on estime qu'il y a environ 700 millions de visiteurs chaque année en forêt. Donc on est vraiment sur des chiffres qui sont importants. Vous avez aussi la répartition en termes d'usage. Donc il y aurait 39% de promeneurs, 21% de coureurs, et puis une répartition entre les cyclotouristes et les vélocistes à 19% à Paris. Ici, à l'écran, vous avez des chiffres qui sont issus d'une enquête qui a été réalisée pour la Journée internationale des forêts en 2021. Donc c'est une enquête qui a été menée de manière un peu à percevoir qu'il y a eu différentes questions. Je diffuserai du coup l'enquête à l'issue du SGM. Mais du coup, l'établissement avait voulu un petit peu prendre la tendance du désir de forêt des Français. Et voilà, du coup, ici à l'écran, vous avez les chiffres qui sont quand même extrêmement parlants, notamment les 4 Français sur 10 qui déclarent aller au moins une fois par mois en forêt. Donc ça reste quand même des chiffres qui sont importants. Du coup, forcément, on a des usagers en forêt qui sont vraiment extrêmement diversifiés. Alors, sans aucune prétention d'exhaustivité, à l'écran, vous avez des photographies qui représentent vraiment une typologie d'usagers extrêmement différents. Et forcément, pour ces usagers, les attentes, les envies, les besoins vont être extrêmement différents. Les cavaliers vont rechercher des pistes sur le terrain naturel avec un entretien de piste cavalière qui se fera à une hauteur convenable de manière à ne pas se prendre une branche dans la tête. Au niveau du vélo, forcément, vous aurez le cycliste qui part en itinérance, équipé d'un super vélo, avec la charrette, la tente, et qui du coup a besoin de chemins extrêmement roulants, avec un revêtement vraiment nickel. Et puis à côté, vous aurez le véloutiste qui lui va également vouloir des pistes en terrain naturel, sur lesquelles il aimerait ne pas croiser de cavaliers. On a vraiment du coup des usagers qui ont des demandes et des attentes extrêmement différentes. Et satisfaire tout le monde, bien évidemment, c'est extrêmement compliqué pour le gestionnaire ONF. Ne serait-ce que sur la marche, par exemple, on aura le randonneur en itinérance, on aura la personne qui va chercher une boucle de 10 à 15 km, et puis on aura la famille avec des enfants qui n'iront pas au-delà de 5 à 8 km, et puis les enfants en bas âge avec la poussette, où il faudra forcément un chemin qui soit également un petit peu plus roulant, un petit peu mieux aménagé, de manière à faciliter la marche. Enfin voilà, du coup, on est vraiment confronté au quotidien à des demandes et des attentes qui sont extrêmement variées. Alors, pour l'ONF, pour l'établissement, donc nous, on gère 25% de la forêt française, donc on gère uniquement et totalement la forêt publique. Donc on a 25% de forêt publique en gestion par l'Office national des forêts. Les 3/4 restants, c'est de la forêt privée. Ça représente 11 millions d'hectares, 4,6 millions d'hectares en métropole, avec une répartition donc à 1,7 million d'hectares de forêt domaniale. Donc quand on parle de forêt domaniale, on est sur la propriété privée de l'État, et 2,9 millions d'hectares de forêt communale, ou plutôt de forêts de collectivité. On a des forêts qui appartiennent également au département, notamment, même si c'est essentiellement des forêts qui appartiennent aux communes. Et on a également 6,4 millions d'hectares pour nos territoires ultramarins. Alors, pour les partenaires du projet qui étaient présents en octobre 2021, je ne sais pas si vous vous souvenez, mais Jérôme Galinon, vous avez fait une présentation. Vous avez notamment présenté la spécificité de la gestion multifonctionnelle des forêts françaises. Donc, on demande à l'ONF, pour les forêts publiques, de faire cohabiter 3 usages. Donc, la fonction économique, donc c'est la fonction de production de bois, tout simplement, hein, pour tous les usages qu'on a au quotidien. Voilà, on a du bois, le bois est partout dans notre vie, donc on fait pousser des arbres, on exploite les forêts pour voilà, disposer de cette matière renouvelable. La fonction écologique, avec un gros volet de préservation de la biodiversité. Ça comprend forcément également certaines zones qui parfois sont en forêt mais ne sont pas boisées. Donc on s'occupe également de zones humides, notamment quand ça va être des mares. Il doit y avoir aussi des milieux ouverts de landes. Donc voilà, on a vraiment une mission de préservation de ces sites-là. Et puis la fonction sociale et touristique, donc c'est celle qui nous occupe aujourd'hui, où là du coup c'est permettre l'accès et l'accueil du public dans les forêts. Donc l'accueil du public constitue vraiment le cœur des fonctions sociales de la forêt. Une autre fonction sociale qui est extrêmement importante, c'est le paysage. Les forêts, c'est le cadre de vie des habitants. Donc voilà, le souci du paysage rentre dans cette mission, dans les fonctions sociales. Donc forcément, ça fait partie de la gestion durable des Français. Et évidemment, en tant que forêt publique, là, on est extrêmement concerné. Et c'est d'ailleurs clairement indiqué dans les textes de loi, et notamment le code forestier. On doit permettre dans les forêts publiques l'accueil du public, dans le respect évidemment de la préservation des milieux naturels, la faune, la flore et des habitats remarquables, mais aussi ordinaires. Donc cet accueil du public, alors comment il se matérialise? Alors pour pas qu'il y ait d'ambiguïté, parce qu'on a discuté, enfin Bruno m'a posé la question ce midi à table. Quand on parle d'accueil du public, on ne parle pas d'une personne présente en forêt qui accueille les gens. Quand on parle d'accueil du public à l'ONF, ça se matérialise par l'offre de services qui va faciliter l'accès et les aménagements, les infrastructures, mais également tout ce qui est autorisation d'occupation temporaire du domaine et notamment pour les manifestations sportives. Voilà. On conventionne avec les associations et on permet l'organisation de manifestations en forêt. Voilà, tout ça, ça rentre dans ce qu'on appelle l'accueil du public. Et l'accueil du public, donc c'est vraiment, ça va être l'habitant, ça va être le touriste. Enfin voilà, nous on ne fait pas de distinction, c'est l'usager. Voilà. Donc si on veut résumer la mission d'accueil du public de l'ORF, c'est l'accessibilité et l'accueil pour tous dans une nature de proximité. Donc, pour mettre en œuvre cette mission, la politique globale de l'ONF au niveau national, donc elle cherche avant tout à favoriser le piéton, puis les modes doux, et du coup à concilier les différentes pratiques et les différents usages pour que tout le monde y trouve un petit peu son compte, et en essayant d'atténuer au maximum les conflits qui pourraient y avoir. Donc derrière, ça passe par la réalisation d'aménagements et d'infrastructures qui vont parfois être spécifiques et dédiées, notamment pour les personnes à mobilité réduite. Et parfois aussi, on a des infrastructures qui sont présentes, notamment pour les autres usages de la forêt, comme les routes forestières qui vont permettre le transport du bois, et qui du coup vont pouvoir également permettre le déploiement d'un réseau de cyclables, voilà, ce genre d'infrastructure et d'aménagement. On cherche toujours à respecter l'esprit des lieux, parce que le public vient chercher un espace naturel, et l'accès aux forêts est également gratuit. Vous ne payez pas pour aller faire une balade en forêt, il n'y a pas de billetterie, vous ne payez pas. Donc du coup, pour mettre en œuvre cette politique d'accueil dans le respect des autres usages de la forêt, l'ONF élabore avec ses partenaires un schéma d'accueil. On appelle un schéma d'accueil. Donc le schéma il vise à déterminer collectivement et en concertation, je ne l'ai pas écrit, mais c'est quelque chose qui est extrêmement important, c'est que l'ONF ne fait jamais seul. Nous, on n'est pas aménageur du territoire. On vient inscrire le schéma d'accueil dans une politique globale et dans un projet de territoire avec les élus. Et on va déterminer ce qu'on va du coup rendre accessible, pour qui on va le rendre accessible et de quelle manière, pour permettre du coup de concilier les attentes qui sont parfois contradictoires entre les différents publics et d'effectuer du coup parfois des choix, parce que bah, forcément, c'est ce que je vous disais précédemment, c'est extrêmement compliqué de pouvoir développer une infrastructure qui va vraiment permettre de répondre spécifiquement à un public, et on va vraiment essayer de chercher à concilier tout ça. Donc c'est assez, c'est très méthodologique, hein, mais le schéma d'accueil, voilà, il est élaboré avec les différentes phases. Donc ça passe d'abord par un avis d'opportunité et de faisabilité du schéma, donc c'est ce que je vous disais. On va vérifier que du coup, avec le territoire, il y a vraiment une intention, voilà, une volonté d'inscrire la forêt plus globalement dans une politique de développement de territoire. Il va y avoir un état des lieux, donc là, ça passe par des réunions, notamment avec les usagers, de manière à avoir un petit peu un diagnostic sur les pratiques qu'il y a sur la forêt qui est concernée. Donc, il y a des réunions avec les usagers, on regarde un peu si on a beaucoup de pratiques de vélo, si on a beaucoup de pratiques de famille. Il va y avoir du coup une synthèse des enjeux avec une synthèse des enjeux et une identification des publics éventuellement pour lesquels on va vouloir vraiment développer des infrastructures qui seraient éventuellement manquantes. La formulation globale du schéma, donc sera dans la forme d'une feuille de route qui va du coup donner des perspectives d'aménagement sur une durée de 5 à 10 ans. Donc tout ça, c'est une phase d'étude. Et ensuite, on est sur une phase beaucoup plus opérationnelle, donc avec une définition et un montage des projets par site qui ont été identifiés dans le schéma d'accueil comme nécessitant un développement et de nouveaux aménagements, la réalisation des travaux, et puis le suivi et l'évaluation des aménagements et du schéma. Voilà. Du coup, alors peut-être je vais repasser peut-être sur l'image d'illustration. En général, on travaille avec un zonage, c'est-à-dire que du coup, à partir de la porte d'entrée de forêt, on va définir un espace d'accueil. Donc cet espace d'accueil, ça va être la zone qui va être la plus aménagée. On va retrouver des parkings, on va retrouver la signalétique d'accueil, on va retrouver éventuellement des informations historiques sur la faune, sur la flore, enfin, voilà, des éléments intéressants de découverte pour le public sur la forêt. Ensuite, on aura une zone de découverte un petit peu intermédiaire. Donc c'est là qu'on va éventuellement développer des petites boucles et des cheminements qui vont être adaptés, donc avec un revêtement qui sera très roulant, etc. Et puis après, vous avez la zone qu'on appelle le cœur de forêt. Donc là où du coup, on est, s'il y a présence de chemins de randonnée notamment, on sera vraiment sur des pistes en terrain naturel, etc. Voilà. On travaille comme ça par zone. Donc, ce qui fait que, par exemple, du coup, sur la photo d'illustration que vous avez à l'écran, eh bien, vous avez la schématisation de différents éléments. Donc, notamment en bas, sur la zone la plus au sud, du coup, vous retrouvez bien cette porte d'entrée de forêt avec une zone d'accueil aménagée, donc éventuellement un stationnement PNR, etc. Une zone de découverte avec des cheminements adaptés, et puis du coup le cœur de forêt avec soit la présence de chemins de randonnée avec des boucles qui vont être beaucoup plus importantes. Et puis, du coup, c'est aussi dans ce cœur de forêt que vous allez retrouver les autres usages, notamment de production de bois. Alors après, du coup, très concrètement sur le terrain, je vais sélectionner quelques photos d'aménagement. Sur la photo de gauche, vous avez l'attelage du sentier de la ligne parabolique en forêt domaniale de Merlimont. Donc, c'est un chemin de randonnée qui fait environ 7 km qui est 100% accessible aux personnes à mobilité réduite, et puis évidemment en famille avec des poussettes et des poussettes. À droite, vous avez la photo d'illustration d'un sentier qui est également 100% accessible aux personnes à mobilité réduite, mais aussi aux personnes malvoyantes, qui a un tapage pour pouvoir rouler facilement. Il y a également un fil d'argane et des bandes de produits actifs. Et puis, c'est un sentier sur lequel aussi il y a eu le développement de guides voilà, pour accompagner la visite. On est sur des distances qui sont peut-être parfois un petit peu courtes, mais on est toujours obligé de faire en fonction forcément du terrain et voilà, développer des parcours 100% accessibles sur des distances qui sont un peu plus longues, mais en fonction de l'endroit, c'est pas toujours facile. Sur celle-ci, vous avez deux photos d'un sentier en forêt domaniale des Gouales, c'est dans le Gard. Donc là, on est encore sur une distance qui est un petit peu courte, 500 mètres, mais sur cette distance-là, c'est 100% accessible aux personnes à mobilité réduite. Donc le cheminement a été réalisé en béton. Il y a également un fil d'Arial et il y a aussi l'installation de mobilier adapté avec, donc, vous voyez sur la photo de droite, c'est un banc, donc avec des hauteurs d'assises qui sont différentes et qui du coup vont pouvoir permettre notamment aux personnes âgées de pouvoir s'asseoir et se relever facilement. Voilà, parce que voilà, quand on vieillit, qu'on a des problèmes de genoux, c'est parfois un petit peu compliqué de se relever. Donc, du coup, là, vous avez la photo d'illustration d'un banc avec deux hauteurs d'assises différentes. Là, on est en couronne sur la première manière de Castillon. Donc là, on est sur un chemin de 4 km qui se fait en aller-retour et également 100% accessible avec une réalisation en stabilisé. Sur la photo du haut, vous avez une table avec un seul banc. L'autre partie va pouvoir permettre aux personnes en fauteuil de pouvoir s'installer facilement. Et sur la photo de droite, vous avez une miséricorde. C'est un petit peu le même principe que la photo précédente avec le banc et des hauteurs d'assises différentes. C'est pour pouvoir se reposer et soulager les genoux sans pour autant être assis. Et enfin, ici, je vous ai sélectionné deux photos où là, on est sur du mobilier spécifique pour les familles. Donc, sur l'image de gauche, on est dans le nord, pour une manière de normale. Donc, au premier plan, vous avez une table blanc plastique. Mais au second plan, vous avez une table qui a été développée spécifiquement pour les enfants. Elle est plus basse, il y a des petits tabourets, donc c'est une table 100% enfant. Et sur la photo de droite, là vous avez une table pour familles extrêmement nombreuses, voire pour les cousinades. Voilà, donc là on est sur un terrain communal à Aix-les-Bains. Voilà, on est en milieu naturel, mais on n'est pas en forêt domaniale. Mais c'est du mobilier qui a été du coup fabriqué par l'OM. Je peux du coup peut-être préciser, c'est que l'ONF a développé justement toute une gamme de mobilier au regard de son expérience, parce qu'en tant qu'établissement public, on a des voilà, on travaille en partenariat avec énormément de porteurs de projets et du coup, ce développement de mobilier adapté rentre un petit peu dans le cadre de mission d'établissement public. Voilà, donc on a des tables pour les familles, mais on a aussi, comme je vous ai montré, du mobilier qui permet aux personnes, notamment à mobilité réduite ou les personnes âgées, de pouvoir se reposer. Et ça semble pas grand-chose, mais quand ne serait-ce que sur un chemin de 3 km et qu'on est en famille avec les grands-parents, on va avoir un mobilier comme une miséricorde, où ça permet un petit peu de se reposer. Et c'est ce qui améliore du coup l'offre d'accueil et la qualité d'aménagement du site. Voilà. Volontairement, je n'ai pas mis Compiègne, parce que du coup, dans le projet, on en a déjà parlé. Vous, globalement, vous l'avez un petit peu en tête. Et comme ça fait l'objet d'une étude de cas, en fait, d'une étude de travail numéro 6 avec l'évaluation qualitative, voilà, c'est tout ce questionnement de l'accessibilité, etc., sera développé dans l'étude de cas. Voilà, j'espère que je n'ai pas été trop vite, c'est la fin.
So now, thank you very much for having me. So now we have a talk about accessing nature from Ginny Mitchell. So Ginny Mitchell is a member of the Disabled Ramblers. She is also a qualified member of Disabled yes, so Ginny Mitchell is a member of the Disabled Ramblers. She's also a member of Disabled Forest School and is a North Downs Way Ambassador, which is a programme funded by Experience, with a speciality in providing access to nature for people with mobility needs. And Ginny also is an experienced hiker.
So first of all, you've all been looking into accessibility, but as you can see, it's got lots of meanings to it, the words. What does it mean? It's a vague and non-defining umbrella term covering this whole long list here of different categories. And with sort of accessible, I recently had to contact the Ramblers Association because they've been advertising accessible walks. But when I looked into it, there were actually, they had styles, they had steps and everything, so I questioned that. And the response was it was actually accessible by means of transport, which also means that you've got permission to go there too. So accessible for a disabled person is very vague, and just using that one word can have a lot of meaning. So I'm going to go through this long list to just highlight how many different things it does actually cover. So first of all is the diversity, inclusion and equity in access. So in this context, access covers a diverse range of audiences, socially and culturally, with restrictions on their participation. Secondly, we've got technology and digital access. So it provides user-friendly technology for differing needs, which is very positive, but also we need to remember that nearly 2 million, which is 79% of the over 75s, are digitally excluded, so they don't have access to these apps. They find it very difficult, and they like to sort of use the old-fashioned method of using letters or reading something in print. And this is where I sit, is the physical and mobility restrictions. So this assists mobility and movement restrictions. And as you can see in the image, there are so many different varieties of the variations of mobility restrictions and equipment as well. But these also fluctuate, so one individual might have a few of these different things, depending on whether they're having a good day or a bad day, or also depending on how far they need to walk. So there's a lot of assessment that goes into when these certain equipment is appropriate for the different mobility restrictions. Another thing that's been covered as well is the impairments of senses. So this is the visual, sound and sensory impairments. This is mainly for communication purposes and also people's experience as well. That's fine, but also too much of having colour or visuals and sound can trigger some medical problems as well, so that's just worth bearing that in mind. And then we have hidden disabilities, so 73% of disabilities and impairments may not be visible, obvious or continuous. So in these instances, these can fluctuate as well, they might not be predictable, but also depending on what the actual experience is, there may be something that that you can ask to have it disclosed if it's going to actually affect their classification in something like an allergy, and for instance, dietary requirements as well, or whether they need to be in quite close contact with the toilet as well. And then finally is the mental health emotional restrictions in local working. So we've seen over the pandemic of people being isolated that there's been a big rise in social anxiety, but also those who have the vulnerable category, the health anxiety as well is continuing. So a lot of people still are afraid of having adverse reactions with COVID as well. So that is, I think, quite a big concern from people accessing any kind of experiences as well. So there's the whole list that we've just gone through, everybody there benefits through going into the outdoors, into nature, and it's been scientifically proven all the benefits which are therapeutic to mental health, the ocean, emotional calming, physical activities, but also the social benefits as well, from non-user diversity and inclusion aspects as well. So they've got space, large space outdoor, and people feel a bit safer there with the COVID lingering, as it does. But here I'm just going, there's a little list here of organisations and groups which work with access to nature. And the bottom right-hand picture, you can see this is the Disabled Ramblers Association, which has been sort of in place since about 1990s. And they realised that accessing the countryside was very difficult. So what they did was they'd go out in a big group, and you can see that the actual mobility scooter is being carried over with a big group of people with their own ramps that they take with them in order to get over a fence, which out in the countryside, most of the non-tech people would just simply climb over that and that's an island. And the picture that's above that, that's the Access to Dales charity, led by Deborah North, who's been campaigning for Miles Without Styles in the open access countryside as well. So that's been quite a good following as well. They've got quite a lot of equipment that can go on the trails there. So access to nature, we covered country parks with the local ones in Kent, national trails. But if you want to go anywhere else where hikers go, which would be for walks sort of from 5 miles or kilometres up to sort of 10 kilometres, if you're stuck in the all-terrain mobility scooter, there's a lot of barriers there. And you can see in the picture here, this lady's trying to get under the barrier in her scooter. I've done that quite a few times in my scooter as well. Sometimes I've had to actually dismantle my scooter to get over barriers as well. There are solutions. The main solution is to completely get rid of all the barriers. There isn't anything. But when there's livestock involved and they're trying to contain livestock, you can see the second image has got a trombone handle, and disabled ramblers have sort of fashioned tools where they, while they're still seated, they can sort of put the handle, pull it forward, and then we're usually self-closing so that the gate will close behind them. And then the image of the UK as well. This is the disabled ramblers are starting to put together a big map of where these accessible places are, particularly the Miles Without Styles. And you can see the majority of where they are is in the sort of middle of the image, which is the Yorkshire Dales, the Peak District and the Lake District, also down in Cornwall and parts of Wales as well. But unfortunately, we haven't got in Kent, we haven't got on the map yet. But I can explain sort of reasons why, it's a historical reason. So we're based close to the capital city, Londinium, as it were, which is a very densely populated area, and it's been the site of various invasions for the millennia. There's lots of castles, there's lots of privately owned land as well, and estates. But there's also a patchwork quilt of farms and boundaries, so that's got lots of styles, grids and kissing gates, which are made to contain livestock over the years as well. And then the image you've got of the lovely chalky cliffs, which is quite key to Kent. This is also, this proves difficult access with lots of steep steps, getting around the beach or from the beach up to the cliff tops as well. And there's a huge noise here, which is probably never ending. There's probably lots more to add to this list of man-made barriers to physical access. So the main 2 points is styles, which on lots of walks going throughout the countryside, all over the country. The infrastructure of that is quite impassable. And also there's lots of barriers that have been put up as deterrents for unsocial behaviour on quad bikes and off-road motorbikes. These cause a problem because there is a limited amount of facilities for quad bikers, so they want to go out into the country, enjoy the country themselves, so they just go into the land, which makes it more difficult for people with mobility scooters to access. But also we've got tyres, they tread up the ground, and farmers put up a lot of barriers there as well to try and prevent that. But the quad bikers still they find ways of climbing over these barriers. But the disabled people who can't climb over them. So when choosing making an accessible experience, best thing is to actually imagine life in their shoes, see what's behind their lens, and try to sort of imagine what their experience is and what the difficulties are. So planning an accessible nature experience is first to pick a target audience. As I went through all the different accessible categories, it's not a one-size-fits-all, it isn't a tick box exercise. So simply putting in a disabled ramp, wheelchair ramp, or calling largest toilet a disabled-friendly toilet, it doesn't cover all the different aspects that need access. Second, reduce transport and parking restrictions. So as you can see, to transport your large mobility scooter, we have very large cars and vehicles as well, which needs a lot of space to safely offload equipment. Another thing is fully engaging and inclusive experience. So as you can see in the image, how would a person in a wheelchair be able to get that close to in that particular area to examine, say, the water? So there's a lot of thought that goes into that with bringing people to the person rather than bringing the person to the nature. And to remove restrictions to activities as well. So in a lot of activities, it's removing restrictions, but also there is a lot of equipment out there that can help. And then encouraging independence so that when people participating don't have to be asking for anyone to open the door or gate, or they can actually freely go around with their own equipment. Well, and lastly, it's very important to listen to the disabled voice. Before I became a wheelchair user, I had absolutely no idea of the restrictions that I faced, even when I just had a stick and I had hidden disabilities. When you come face to face with a barrier such as a curb or steps, there is no other way. Also, early on, part right on the access route because I was coming in, and we had to get them to move that just so that I could get into the building. So really planning is an improved disabled voice and in parts of decision making, because you just can't second guess what the needs are really. But also have a trial run with basic NHS issued equipment. And as you can see in this image, this is what is very sort of difficult to manoeuvre, this cheap issued NHS equipment, which is they're used very often, I see, in late accidents at country parks, where you'll have an elderly couple where the gentleman maybe just come out of hospital, so the elderly lady is having to push them around in this very restricted piece of equipment, because we don't want to invest up to tens of thousands of pounds for very suitable equipment, and when they've got a temporary reason for it, or they've broken the leg just temporarily as well. So if we actually surround and cope with one of those, then everybody else would be able to. But if we're just aiming at people high-tech mobility scooters, then it's going to cause trouble with someone from down the bottom of the hill with one, and it's been listed as being accessible. Then how do they push, the car back up again? The other point is clearly labelled routes and barriers. And I've found this in a few places I went to Legoland, got almost to the exit, and then there's a sign saying it's going to be very difficult for anyone with a wheelchair user to go past this point. So instead of taking a half an hour walk all the way around back to the entrance, everybody was around the entrance first to actually push my scooter up to the entrance to the exit. And then reducing disabled admin, it takes a lot of work for people who are disabled to actually to find out where spontaneously. So you've got to do, if somebody invites you up for a meal, for instance, or you go. Is this something I can help? Actually get there and work it out as being on air. And the final one is having clear accessibility communication. So, so many different things, so just saying something is accessible. And just lastly, I'm just going to leave you with this point, which is often it is the environment which is disabling rather than the person who is disabled. Thank you.
A question for Ginny. I wonder, I know you're developing a specific bookable experience. What sort of feedback have you had from potential people of interest? Do you think there is a big market out there looking for, and now I'm using the words, and perhaps I shouldn't, accessible experiences?
Well, there's going to be a lot of education and re-education that's going to need to take place because it's such a place where there isn't that accessibility, and it's a pioneering project. It doesn't exist yet, so a lot of it is going to be educating people that this is possible, and then we're hoping that once people do start coming and joining at the word of mouth, and people can see that it's something that is accessible to all, which is what we're focusing on the inclusion side of things. That's when the information will be out there for everyone. But this is very key. Everyone who I've spoken to who's able, non-disabled or able, when I've been out in the past, they just think it's a brilliant idea, and so looking forward to being out there.
Thank you very much. You talked earlier on when we were chatting about your own experience of, even of the experience of the experience project, that it wasn't immediately clear that it was open to everyone, but you said, well, I'm just going to do it. Why don't you talk a little bit more about that?
I think it's because I've always had a love of nature and to going out there that I felt that there must be some sort of equipment and way that I can do this. So originally when the Experience project and the North Sound Ambassador project came out, I've dismissed it first of all because I don't think it even mentioned that it would be accessible. And I sort of referred it on to a few of my friends going, I think you'd be great at that. And then I thought, I'll just go out anywhere on my scooter, let's give it a go and see how far I can go. And we did struggle, and as we were doing the training, I did warn the trainer. I said there's going to be some points where people are going to have to help get my equipment through, but it was all part of their training as well to see and to experience firsthand, and to actually be able to see what they need to look out for when they do their that they've actually had to physically get my scooter up over these barriers and through this place, and they were quite surprised that actually pushed my scooter through, but all of the equipment out there is designed for shopping centres and sort of companies.
And let's say that the ONF, because you're a national organisation, you have a national, you have your own sort of directive, don't you?
on a à l'ONF, notre propre catalogue d'immobilier bois. Du coup, c'est un catalogue qui développe une gamme de mobilier adaptée aux différentes forêts et aux différents milieux sur lesquels on est amené à devoir réaliser des aménagements. Donc, du coup, on a l'étage, l'accessible aux personnes réduites, enfin, voilà, une gamme de mobilier qui a été développée. Et c'est une activité concurrentielle, forcément on n'est pas là pour faire concurrence à des fabricants de mobilier. Voilà, on rentre vraiment dans l'émission qu'on appelle concurrentielle. Évidemment, on va le rendre à perte, etc., pour faire de la concurrence déloyale. Mais du coup, c'est quand même une gamme de mobilier extrêmement variée et un catalogue très très fourni et de manière à pouvoir répondre avec des demandes extrêmement diverses.
Thank you. Is it directly online, or is it something that can be shared with the partners?
Oui, c'est tout à fait possible de partager. C'est tout à fait possible de partager et il est d'ailleurs on est en train il y a la création d'une filiale justement pour toutes les activités concurrentielles. Et on travaille actuellement à l'élaboration d'un nouveau catalogue. Et je fais partie du groupe de travail national. Donc voilà, on a peut-être de nouveaux mobiliers aussi, de nouvelles idées. Mais il n'y a pas de problème, c'est partager le catalogue. Et le schéma d'accueil de Compiègne aussi, du coup, éventuellement, peut être partagé sans aucun souci.
That's why I've got loads more questions, and I will keep asking unless anyone else pops their hand up.
C'est une question pour Julie et Marie. On parle souvent de multipratique sur les sentiers. Et souvent, lorsqu'on fait des aménagements, vous parliez de barrières, mais justement pour empêcher les véhicules motorisés d'aller sur les sentiers, on s'aperçoit que soit ça gêne le passage pour les personnes handicapées, soit ça gêne le passage pour les véhicules ou même les automobilistes. Et c'est souvent très compliqué. Est-ce que ça vous fait de mettre une aménagement et de dire, bah non, en fait, les consultants vont les d'autres. With the disabled ramblers, we often cover this question. And there's various different parts of equipment that's used, which restricts bicycles, or bicycle can go through, but then usually it restricts the larger mobility scooters. There are gates that come for wheelchairs, but not for the larger mobility scooters. We have a key, which I believe in France as well, we have some access key for toilets, for disabled toilets, the universal one. We have a radar key over here in the UK, which is easily accessible to get hold of, which you can get into disabled toilets in out of parks and things. But then the people with the quad bikes, they get hold of the key as well, so they can get in. So there doesn't seem to be any sort of legislation of keeping those things tight. But also, yeah, all the different barriers, the people who want to get over them manage to somehow, but what's left is somebody in a wheelchair or mobility scooter that's stuck and can't get through. So it's, I think the way to go forward is to educate the people who are causing the problem and to remove all of the barriers that sort of just really keep them on top. But no use policy with police or something like that to actually enforce when people are being destructive and to put them off, but also to provide them with a different facility somewhere else which is self-contained and they can go there to help content and just drive around town. But when I've heard in Kent, there isn't anywhere around in sort of south of Kent, there's two places that can go down. So that's why they're going out to find, they've got the equipment, they want to go out and explore, and to use their foot bikes out in nature. So they can be a different provision elsewhere, but also be educated that their use is also affecting people with disabilities. So they think the barriers will work. If you start to keep out, it's a big problem in the public works because you try to keep out illegal use who are immediately keeping out people on the business figures and what we need is some sort of, like you say, a better education system or adding a cheapest piece of equipment because even with the best education, like you said today, there's a car parked on the ramp to get into the building. You know, that's kind of obvious that it shouldn't be parked. But also they have for bridle paths for horses. You put a low barrier so the horse can step over that. But then also everyone with the quad bikes, they just simply lift them over anyway. But it's the person who's in the who's disabled who's stuck and can't get over. So the only person that's restricting is disabled people. So, you have experience of that measuring in place.
Alors, du coup, oui, parce qu'on a différentes solutions qui vont servir aussi aux autres usages, notamment l'exploitation forestière. Donc, du coup, en général, sur ce type de route, on va mettre des dispositifs qui sont mobiles, de manière à ce que l'exploitant, par exemple, puisse nourrir. Voilà. Ça reste quand même relativement rare qu'on mette des dispositifs qui soient vraiment fixes, sauf à l'entrée de certains types d'aménagements comme des pistes cyclables. Donc là, c'est aussi extrêmement compliqué puisque on va sur un dispositif fixe de barrière à la course. Donc, par exemple, on utilise une touriste qui a sa charrette, éventuellement il va pouvoir consommer. Donc en fait, c'est très rare de pouvoir trouver le compliqué idéal et puis de prendre une façon minimale, des des poils, etc. C'est quotidien. Donc nous, on a des techniciens collectifs qui sont baptisés, voilà, qui ont clairement les yeux partout. Donc du coup, ouais, en termes de paramétrage, comme ça, c'est toujours très compliqué de le moduler, qui va vraiment pouvoir permettre l'accès à tout type d'usager tout en contraignant en rendant impossible l'accès aux électriques motorisées.
I think we've got time for maybe one or two more questions. Any other questions? Well, I'll take them. I've got one more question around talk about equipment, and we talked a little bit about equipment in the area. And if there's two pieces of equipment that could be publicly available, and which ones would you choose?
I have to say this piece of equipment that I'm sitting in right now because it's very versatile. But these are very expensive, so they're not accessible to everybody budget-wise. I've tried out lots of various different pieces. Different equipment does suit different people because everyone's got different needs. This comes with its own joystick as well, so with limited upper arm strength, that's quite easy. There's other ones with trumpers, which were mentioned for Sean Park. They've got a more motorbike kind of way where you have to actually use your wrists, and I find that I get very tired with those, even though they're very good for going off roads in. And then there's three-wheelers, there's so many different types out there. And there's more support as well. People have to be strapped in and have to be more upright, and they've got the kids support. So we can't really do a one size fits all. But what I'm finding is this one that I'm in now, I've got more access into buildings. Whereas if I've got, I've got 3 different scooters to be fair. This one's my sort of going to building one, and then I've got another one, which is harder to transport, but means I can get really out into the countryside, and beaches, up hills, I've been pretty much everywhere. If I come across a barrier, that's impossible. And then I've got a third piece of equipment which comes apart, which I took on my 929 bicycle training, and that can be taken into bits, and then we can get through various different gates and things. So, yeah, it's not really an answer question, but it's personal to the person, the user, what suits them best in different terrains, and also the transportation of that as well. So recently I've had a question from a friend, the elderly lady wants to find something to push her husband around with that needs to be lightweight, and you can get folding up equipment, but for an elderly lady to pick that up and put it in the car is you've got to really sort of go into the shop and see all the different types of equipment that there are, try them out. Yeah, it can be really difficult. Even though another friend of mine, he's self-propelled in a wheelchair, like you do see at the marathon. And he'll just be zooming along, got muscles twisted, and he can just get anywhere in one of those. So it completely depends on what the disabilities are.
One last question then, thank you.
So just to follow up on that. So out of interest, in Norfolk, we are seeing quite a lot of incidental, but places on the coast where they've brought in mobility equipment, and so with different kinds of wheelchairs, I suppose. When I say different kinds, I mean they've got one kind. Do you think that that is helpful, or would you be better off investing that kind of money in, working with landowners to address some of the physical, removing those physical barriers? And I'm just wondering, after listening to you talk, whether that actually helps anybody, because the needs are so varied. Is that a good use of time, do you think, or should we be removing those forced barriers?
I think working on both, to be fair, at the same time, because you've got people that are just going out for a certain day, they haven't invested in that, buying that equipment, so it's very easy that they can actually go to country parks or festival walks, and they can just fire up that piece of equipment for that purpose as well. But also at the same time, for people who have got their equipment, to be working on removing those restrictions too.
I can't got myself on the finish with the last question. But everyone in this room is committed to giving access to nature for all. So you have to highlight, the one request or one piece of advice for everyone in this room. I know there's many pieces. What do you think that might be?
Well, I put in my slide of that, try and put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And I think that is the most important thing that we don't do. I personally have been guilty of that myself when, before actually having that. And to just imagine the difficulties others do have. But also, communicate, involve people who are disabled, ask lots of questions, see what their point of views are. I find on social media, we've all got the same views, to be fair. What it sort of boils down to is this access that people, I'm really pleased they've got this ramp coming in as well. They're taking the time to build this, which is a very cumbersome, massive piece of equipment, but it means that we can, I can do it. So, I think just, communicate and build up relationships with people with various different disabilities.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to both our speakers. It's been really fantastic to both. We have 2 more speakers.
speakers, but we're going to stop for 10.
Let's keep one slide because I could talk about digital for hours because that's my file, it's my thing, I love it. But I think what you mostly were working on today was sustainability and accessibility for tourism. And I hope Simon can nod now so I can see it. Well, never mind, I'm seeing the thumbs up, so I'll keep going. Simon, can you show the next slide, please? It's so bizarre. It's like I'm in a blind room when I don't know what's going on around.
Which slide?
The one that because there's something important I'd like to say. No, the next one up. Yeah, I believe you hear me. So okay, let's go on this one. It's okay. Let's stay here. The other side actually was about skills and resilience. I think I mentioned this quickly just to give you an overview of what's in the document. Again, I'm not going to go academically on each and every one of these bullet points. The skills and resilience basically is the one section in that report where you can find what we want to do for accessibility. And now on accessibility, there's a couple of slides on this. First of all, we need to do it. Every time we talk about tourism, we have to talk about accessible tourism. We are bound by the fact that the Commission is one of the signatories of the UN Convention for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And it was actually the very first human rights convention that we ever signed as European Commission. So we are bound from that. And yeah, keep that slide, but I'll get to that in a minute. We are also bound by the fact that the Commission has come up with a strategy for 2030 for the rights of persons with disability, and tourism is mentioned that. And it's also it's mentioned that with a full article. And this is you're going to find in the next slide. Our Smart Tourism Competition Awards are mentioned there in the strategy for persons with disabilities. Now, this I wanted to mention it because it's a lot less interesting from the policy making point of view. So if you want to know what the European Commission does, there's a lot more interesting stuff. But this one I really like. First of all, I follow it, I love it. But I like to talk about it as well and to you because the UK can apply and applications are open and several countries can apply, not just European member states. There's a whole reason why. I won't go into the nitty-gritty of it. But if you know of any cities in the UK that have more than 100,000 inhabitants and are doing really well with tourism in these 4 categories, then please convince them to apply, because it is honestly a really nice award to have. First of all, it's for the visibility, which I'm sure you don't need, but it's essentially the city that wins, and there's 2 winners per year. The 2 cities that wins, they work together all year long with our support. So we give a lot of support in terms of video editing, PR, visibility, communication campaigns. And they really do carry on a lot of, they gain a lot more visibility for themselves as destinations, for the award, for the work that we do at European level. And then they enter a network of destinations that all work on the same priorities. And these are these priorities: accessibility, digitalization, sustainability, and creativity. So I would really encourage you, if you know anyone that wants to apply, please tell them to. It's really not a difficult application process, and it's worth the effort. Having said that, the French are doing really well. I know that there are some French people in the room. I hope they are. Well done to Bordeaux, who's the current capital of smart tourism, together with Valencia. And here's the thing, the French are doing super well. It's the second time France wins, also the second time that Spain wins. So, you know, it'd be nice if someone else won for a change. Next slide, because something else that's very interesting for tourism is where to find the money. And it's honestly, there hasn't been this much money available for tourism across the EU ever. It's due to COVID, which is very sad, but it's true. The problem is to find how to find it and how to apply. The 2 big questions, because it's all very obscure. So we came up with an online guide, which is rather easy to use. You go on that website that's there and click, essentially filter your search. Whatever you're looking for, that guide is going to give you examples of those who already won how to apply, examples of applications, when the deadlines are, what's open and what not, and what's going to be open in the future. So honestly, there is a lot there that you can use. Now, I put on a whole list of where the rest of the money is. I'm sorry to say this does not apply to the UK, like the award, the competition, yes, the money, no. But I know that this is normally the kind of information that stakeholders need. Now, on the next slide, actually next 2 slides, you will see that I put together a nice green slide saying Together for You Tourism. It's nice and it's, you know, it sounds lovely, but it's also the name of a platform that we are trying to put together. It's taking us longer than we thought it would, to make sure that everyone that works on tourism and wants to work together and essentially network and make sure that they find the fundings that they need can do so without having to always call me up or reach out to us bilaterally, come to Brussels, which can be very complicated. So we call it co-implementation, meaning that we got a transition pathway, the whole document I told you about. We want to make sure that that becomes like the real stuff, reality by 2030. So now it's the time to get it done and then to monitor what we do. And we're going to do that through this platform. I don't want to run out of time, so can we have the next platform, please, Simon? It's about the stakeholder commitments. Now, I didn't choose this word commitment. I don't like it particularly, but let me tell you what it is, because it would be lovely if you gave me yours. So essentially, what we're looking for is what we're asking all of the stakeholders that we're talking to is, guys, what are you doing that is making your tourism sector, destination, ecosystem more accessible, or more sustainable, or more digital, more innovative, you name it. What is it that you're doing? Can you tell us? And this is where the link is. You go on this link, just tell us. Whoever came up with this word called it a commitment or a pledge, which is a bit weird because you're really not promising anything. You're just telling us that you will get it done. And, you know, sometimes you're already doing it. So it's really not so much of a pledge. What we need, though, is to know that it's happening, because that helps us monitor who's doing what and what regions are doing better than others and where we can help the most. And it also helps us understand where the weak areas are, or the weak priorities are, or what we shouldn't do next. So please, if you're doing what you're doing, and you are, because I know from the program that you're doing lots of great stuff, please just go on the website. It won't take you very long. Just tell us what you do, and we promise we'll give you the visibility that you deserve. I think it's a very, very honest plea. Next slide, please, to tell you what happens with those commitments, pledges, platforms. We will have working groups. So we will ask for experts to come to us through a call for proposal. So we will write the call, and then hopefully someone will be interested in replying, and we'll put together some groups of experts on these four aspects. Accessibility, by the way, is under skills and resilience. And we work with them, and they will help us get stuff done, essentially strategize, matchmaking, getting some matchmaking done with partners that could work together, getting destinations to understand where the best practices are, etc., etc. And there could be more, I don't know, but the group of experts is there to help us out. Now, why do we do this? Why do we ask for help? 2 reasons. The first, Brussels cannot make rules on tourism. In the treaties, by the treaties, since the 50s, the governments have always told us, no, you will not regulate tourism for us. This is national competence. So no, we don't make any rules, which essentially means we cannot really drive hardcore tourism policy. We can do it in a soft way, which means doing it together. What we can do best is to help you network and work together. And we do that. We do that with the member states, we do that with the government, and we do that with the private sector. So this is what we will be doing for the rest of the year and years to come. Next slide, please, just so that you can have it all wrapped up in one nice sentence. And like I said before, this is my message for you today. This is what we're doing at public policy level, at EU level. Please let's do it together. Please tell us what you're doing so that we can proceed and have it done by 2030. Thank you so much. There will be an email on the last slide, which is very informal. Oh, sorry, a very formal mailbox, functional mailbox. But you have my email as well, because they all end up in the same way. So if you have my name and surname, you can reach me very, very easily. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Lisa, thank you very much for that.
apologies for our slight technical difficulties at the beginning of that session, but we're learning as we're going with the technology. But no, certainly that was really interesting for all the colleagues. There was something for everyone in the room there. And we're really pleased that you've been able to join us today, because it's been a great opportunity for us to showcase the Experience project. It's a 24 million euro project after all. It's decentralised structural funding. It's ERDF, European Regional Development Fund. So please send the message back to Noel over in DG Regio about all our good work, please. We've been really interesting to see what colleagues have had to, the stories they've had to tell here in the last 2 days. Certainly working on the sustainable themes and working on the accessibility issues as well. Are there any questions for colleagues to Lisa? I think they're getting to an end of a very long day. Well, Lisa,
I'm really not taking personally, that's fine.
Right, we have a question. You pass the...
Yeah, actually, I've got my phone.
Catherine, can you come over here?
Yes, all partners today, we've been talking a lot about accessibility today, and one of the things we've come up with equipment to enable access to nature. And I wondered, are there any specifically funding programs for improved access to nature for people with mobility needs?
I'm sorry, I don't think I can hear you very well. I know it's to ask about anything specific regarding accessibility, but I'm not sure I couldn't hear the rest.
Can you come over here, Catherine? Sorry about this. We're wired, unfortunately. Apologies, please.
Yeah, apologies for that. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So all of the partners today have been doing a lot of work encouraging improved access for people with mobility needs to nature. And I wondered if there was any specific programs within the EU, either funding-wise or in terms of best practice, for equipment that will enable that, because that's an issue that's come up in all of our work over the last few years.
For equipment?
Yes. That will enable nature access.
That I honestly don't know. I would have to say I don't think so, but I do know the European Accessibility Act has just been adopted very recently. I think at the end of last year, this year, and they may have provisions about this, because it's all about passengers and mobility. Now, it doesn't live with us. It's not with me, so I can ask, or I can point to the right person to ask. But I would not have the answer to your question. Sorry.
Are there any further questions? Well, Misa, I will take it upon myself to share the presentations with everyone, so they've got all those links.
Yeah, I also wanted to answer that, because just to complement my reply to this question, it's a good question because it goes to the point. We do have, as I said before, quite a lot of money for tourism, and right now I'm drafting a whole call for 20 million euros to place to tourism for small and medium enterprises to apply. But here's the caveat: in those kinds of calls, and this one is no exception, we cannot finance infrastructure. So products, yes; offers, yes; partnerships, marketing, yes; training, great, but no infrastructure. I hope this is probably not good news for you, but at least you get no surprises. But this is a single market program call for services for small and medium enterprises. Perhaps there'll be others. Please check on the online guide. If there's any information, you'll find it there.
Thank you. Any follow-up? Any further questions? Well, thank you very much, Lisa, for joining us today. I appreciate your time, and apologies, as I say, for the slight technical slip-ups at the beginning there. We will share your slides with the rest of the materials. I think you have all the presentation material from today anyway,
I do.
Feel free to share it with Thomas and colleagues there, because I'm sure we're pleased that the message from experience is getting back to Brussels. It's good news for us, and I hope it's a good project, good investment for yourselves as well.
It really is. Thank you so much. And again, the more visibility, the better. So make sure that you stick on your project on our website.
Bye for now. Thank you for your time. Round of applause, everyone. Thank you. I'm going to hand back to Catherine now to take over for the final speaker.
I think it was 2018. 2018, I had ovarian torsion. So, yeah, lots of ladies like, ooh. And because of my age, like many women, they didn't look, they looked for everything else but PCOS, because they don't like to look at ladies under 30 for PCOS. And they found that by the time they got there, my right ovary was just destroyed, so we had to get rid of it. But yeah, so there are lots, and it's the whole spectrum. It's the visible abilities and it's the invisible disabilities that span across the whole thing. Something else that I don't have a picture of, but you can maybe make it up, is the neurological disabilities. Having people that have that are not neurotypical being able to access the outdoors as a place of safety and a place of rest and relaxation. They don't have the overstimulation and they're able to enjoy it in a way that's quite nice and free. Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't think it's that much of a good book. My sister loves it, but it was a really good seller, so I like to use it as an example. Just in terms of the socioeconomics leading to leisure as an outdoor activity, leisure as in its own right, I suppose, is a factor of social class. You don't have free time if you can't afford not to. If you're always working, if you're always busy, then how do I expect to go out on a Sunday afternoon and walk on the Kent Downs if all I'm thinking about is bills? Or getting an extra shift. So it's not necessarily the visible things, it's the mentality going into leisure as an activity that encourages or discourages people from going in the outdoors. We then go on to gender. Now, gender is a really interesting thing because prior to Sarah Everard making this case was very, very difficult, that women don't feel comfortable in the outdoors. And it took a lot of pushback, even in some brands today, trying to explain why women are apprehensive to outdoor sports is very difficult to make the case. Since Sarah Everard, there's been a lot of push from the police force and support in, I would say just generally, people now are starting to understand that women don't feel safe and they have a genuine need or genuine reason for not feeling safe in the outdoors. And bearing in mind, her place in particular was her home, it was her local park, it was somewhere that wasn't far away, it wasn't somewhere alien to her. So how can we be safe in the great outdoors if we're not safe in our own local parks? So yeah, gender. So when we're talking about Black Lives Matter specifically, we're making the case that there's a need for safe spaces, there's a safety in numbers, and when you see other women outdoors exploring, it then makes you feel empowered and feel like, oh, okay, well, I've gone out in a group, maybe I might want to venture out with my family or my husband, or even, they're not staying by yourself. Then we go on to rest. All of these newspaper clippings are taken from the UK. It's really interesting that I have to make the case for race. Again, prior to the George Floyd and COVID lockdown, it was very difficult to make the case as to why race is a barrier for the outdoors. Some of these are actually taken from Bristol. I don't think any of these are from Kent. But they're all taken within anyone in this room's lifespan. So it's not advertisements and it's not things that are foreign or often people like to say it's an American problem or a French problem or a them problem, whoever they are. But it's very much widespread specifically to the UK. Sexual orientation. So I work with quite a lot of, me personally, not Black Lives Matter, but I work with quite a lot of sexually diverse groups, and one of the things that they've often reported back is when you go to rural areas, you don't have the safety of being in a city, and sometimes the mindsets that you might meet are quite traditional in nature and can provide a barrier, and sometimes a lot of fear if you are visibly queer or visibly sexually different. So yeah, that's me and my ex-girlfriend. Let's keep that there. But I understand that for many it can be a barrier to the outdoor. The last one is logistics. Now, I think it's really important just to be really simple sometimes with the barriers. And this one is a journey to the Pembroke, to the North Pennines, sorry, not Pembroke, okay. It's a joint journey to the North Pennines. So I did this one, which is a car. So that's a 6-hour drive to the North Pennines. It was then a 20 to 40-minute cab ride, which then cost £90 for the train with my rail card, and this was done in advance. What I'm trying to highlight here is it's not just about the difficulty of getting to these locations, it's also the cost associated. So when we're talking about why aren't people coming to our national parks, why aren't people coming to the Downs, they can't get there. There are no buses, and when there are buses, they're once an hour, or they're only on weekends at certain times. And then what if you don't drive? How do you get there then? And if you do drive and you do park and ride, how does that work? Do all national parks have park? I don't know if that do, but maybe having those sort of schemes where we have park and ride implemented to help people get onto the Downs without having the pollution of getting cars in. Yeah, I could have put driving in there, but I don't like to advocate for that. So. Any questions?
Have you got any specific advice on how, you know, if we go to something to Kent Down, how we can improve accessibility and diversity? Here there are possibly the London audience, I'm thinking as well.
Yeah.
Broad question.
How do you improve accessibility? I think the first thing is awareness. There are 15 national parks and 46 areas of outstanding national beauty in the UK. Most people don't know any of them. If you talk to an average person, they might know the Lake District and maybe Snowdonia, which is England and Wales. We've got 46 plus 15. Why are Kent Downs not on the map? Why aren't all of the national parks on the map? I think a lot of the national parks or areas of outstanding national beauty, it's about marketing. I think a lot of the outdoor sector are so behind on the marketing scheme. When you're looking at things like, actually the track and trace did really well. One of the things I have to give them credit for is I saw them have adverts on Snapchat, they had adverts on Instagram, they had adverts on TikTok. There was nowhere that you could go as a younger person and not know about track and trace, or where to get a COVID test from, or where your local centre was. Having that kind of approach to marketing and outreach is so important. If you don't know, how do you know? And that's just a start, just awareness of who you are.
Yeah, so another question, just to, I'd like to perhaps let Erin also to answer to what you were saying. It's not also like the case that those areas, like, I don't know, I'm from Norfolk, like, I live more in Norfolk, and it's not the case that those areas are perceived as overly wide areas. Really, so we have done, we commissioned the University of Northampton recently to do research for us, like on the job trends for people from ethnically diverse communities, so how we can attract them to Norfolk. And they done focus groups. We also have like someone from the Yorkshire representative from the Black Girls side participating, which should be able to interview. And what the research from the University of Northampton found was that actually quite like most of them, they said that they're conscious about like going to somewhere that they might face like race, somewhere like overly wide, and like they're making the decisions in terms of where they're going to go on holidays based on that. So yeah.
Okay, so I think you brought up, I counted maybe 4 points that you you raised. Firstly, it's about being a minority within a minority. Within the UK, we're talking about 15% of, I think it was 15% of Brits are ethnically diverse. I think it came to like 23% in France. I might not be accurate. And France is one that I got was from 2003, so that might be way off now. And that's over the population I got. Then you go into rural areas, like areas of outstanding national beauty, and that number drops. Now, that might not sound like an issue to some people, but I think the issue really is about safety. And these types of messages live in people's brains. They might not be said openly anymore, but if your parents or your grandparents had those messages, they then send you non-verbal signals telling you that these areas are not safe. But you don't know why it's not safe. All you know is I can't go there, or it's not safe for me to attend these spaces. I think it's a lot of relearning and unlearning and re-educating and telling people that actually it's okay now. But that's a lot of work that needs to be done. The other issue that you brought up was about holiday, if I'm right, and where to go for leisure. So like, for example, if I was to just do 2 flights on EasyJet or 2 train tickets on EasyJet to get from where I live, which is Brighton, to the Kent Downs, I have to pay for a train ticket to maybe Ashford International or Canterbury West. I then need to get a taxi from the train station to wherever. We're adding on costs, I'm going to estimate, I didn't do this similar journey, I'm going to estimate it costs £50. For £30, I could go to Berlin. Where would you want to go? And it's not to say that the Kent Downs isn't attractive. I think it's a national problem about travel in the UK. Yeah, so I'm not going to say, oh, it's the Kent Downs, the Kent Downs have to fix the whole of the UK's problem, but I do. I think that would be a burden that's not yours to carry. It's not a burden for you to carry, but it is a genuine, I acknowledge your point. It's a genuine.
Bonjour, je vais le faire en français. Oui, oui, donc déjà bravo pour la présentation. J'avais une question qui est peut-être un peu naïve, je ne sais pas. Donc moi je viens de Bretagne. Et nous, on a, comment dire, des habitudes dans la filière tourisme, qui est de toujours montrer des photos où il fait très beau. Il fait toujours très beau en Bretagne. Mais on montre toujours des photos où le ciel est bleu, où la plage est magnifique et où les gens se baignent sans problème. Et en fait, on reste avec ces poncifs et quand on montre et qu'on développe une image, on développe toujours une image qui est la même, on va dire, depuis 50 ans. Et là, actuellement, on remarque qu'il y a beaucoup de publicité, notamment en France, qui, à mon avis, a démarré plus tard que la Grande-Bretagne, où on montre la diversité. C'est-à-dire, on va montrer des personnes qui sont d'une origine différente, visiblement en tout cas, comment dire, moi, ma question naïve est de savoir, parce que nous, pour l'instant, on ne travaille pas, ça. C'est-à-dire qu'on n'est pas là-dedans aujourd'hui. Est-ce que ça aide? Est-ce que c'est totalement accessoire? Est-ce que c'est... Voilà, donc c'est une question naïve, mais la question, c'est de dire... Voilà.
It's not a naive question at all. Just for translation, I don't know if anyone else heard the English version. Oh, everyone heard it? It's not a naive question, in the slightest. I think I prefer sometimes the way the French do things because it's a lot more apparent. It's a lot more clear. There's not many microaggressions in France. The French are very straightforward, and I know where I stand. In England, it's very much, my ex once told me that I do English gymnastics. Apparently that's something that English people do quite a lot. And they skirt around and France don't have that problem. It's very, very simple. And because you're very to the point, sometimes you guys are better at calling out performative activity than we are. And it is very clear sometimes when advertisements, as you said, are just performative. If we put a brown face on our advert, will more brown people come? No, we're not idiots. We don't know what else is there. You got to want to turn up. But I think sometimes it's small steps that help. It's not going to fix it overnight, but it can be helpful. When also you're talking about the old, lovely, picturesque images, they also need modernizing, and it doesn't mean just slapping a brown face on it. Sometimes it just needs modernizing. If you've been around for, I don't know, let's say 10 years, and you see the same advert all over again, it just addresses, and sometimes the outdoor sector don't understand that marketing is important, it has value, and just looking at that as a sector is really important. Addressing even just that issue. The diversity thing, yes, it's a thing, but let's just fix marketing first, and then go on to big things. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Tony. You just completely touched on what you do with marketing. But that is definitely an issue of what's happening is to show more diversity in photography. So, I mean, do you think we shouldn't be bothered with that, or do we need to do it in a very authentic way? What would that mean?
I think for me, it's about being more authentic. I prefer, rather than, it doesn't mean doing myself out of the job, rather than grabbing someone like me, how many people in Kent walk to Kent Downs? If you find diverse families in Kent that walk to Kent Downs, get pictures of them. I walk to South Downs, I walk Cranberries, I walk Daenerys, but like those are the areas that I walk. Yeah, people that walk your areas. And that doesn't mean that, oh, it's a bad thing that you've got diverse faces and, you know, diverse body types. It's great, but I think we're sometimes leaping before we can walk. Let's just start. And there's nothing also for people that are department heads and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with getting it wrong. I get it wrong all the time, and I am nervous. People get things, and you know what, I think sometimes when we see brands do this, Gymshark was actually a really good example. They got something wrong, they got the wording wrong, they went on Twitter and said, yeah, we messed up. And everybody left it alone. Whereas when you pretend or put out a nice PR statement, oh, yeah, like you can see through that. Whereas when you actually just put out something short and said, sweet, and said, yeah, you got it wrong, how to get it right, people respect that a lot more. Because then you're not insulting someone's intelligence by pretending that you didn't get it wrong. Yeah.
Any more questions? I guess about it's like it's obviously founded to provide safe space, encourage that people to connect with nature. But you said as well that it was to show black people in nature as well. It's kind of a bit of a statement, yeah, it's a sort of political statement to say we're here, you know, we're enjoying ourselves. And so what was that question leading to? So, you know, should we be making statements like that, or?
I think another question which is a bit easier. Yeah, I'm not sure else that one. Sorry.
Yeah, so the other question was about whether that does like founded, you've had quite a few years experience in that. I wondered if you probably come across some really powerful stories of people who want access to nature and then people who
oh yeah.
And I wondered if you might want to share it, because they would be quite powerful stories. You can share it.
So that's one of the 2023 things that Black Lives Matter are doing. The plan is put together a documentary of all the stories of the people that we brought out into nature. I put out an Instagram post this morning actually. I have always been a weird outdoor kid. I was that child that didn't wear shoes. I was always running around naked. I had my hands and feet in the mud and the dirt, and I just loved it. I'm now and I'm only now starting to get the recognition or encouragement for being a weird outdoor kid, and it's very difficult for me because being that, why do you go out for? Oh, why don't we go for a walk? They want to come for drinks. There's cocktails, there's the clubs. It's a huge transition for me personally. However, telling those stories and having that representation is actually, just read the comics while I was sitting there, not that I wasn't paying attention, I was. And apparently it's empowering. And people feel like because I've done it and because I've done the journey of it, and kind of I did the hard graft, why do I want you to do the work twice? I've done it. Enjoy now. I paid the way. No, I have fun. Like there's no point in both of us struggling. So yeah, I think yes, the representation is important, and yeah, I think that was. I was wondering if you had any stories of other people. Oh, yeah, some stories. So what's some of my best? I had two ladies that lived next door to each other. They lived on the same road for 3 years and didn't know. And then they both came to Black Girls High Court. And then they started walking together, they started going to concerts together, they went on holiday together. Like it was, I just thought, you lived on the same road for 2 to 3 years and you didn't know. Anyway, that was one. Then another one, I had two women in their 50s, 60s, who went to secondary school together and they hadn't seen each other since the end of secondary school, and now they're best friends again, and now they come to my walks and they just do the cutest secondary school, and then they start saying stuff like, do you remember when? Do you remember when? Oh, I used to. And then they started putting like flowers in each other's hair. Yeah. We also do like weekenders and retreats. So yes, I am that outdoorsy person. So the retreats aren't just hiking. I encourage all sorts of frivolous activities, including cliff jumping, bush walking, mountain biking. What did we just do? Oh, we just had a good one. We just had a wellness weekender. And women break down in tears. Now, what's so interesting is when we have safe spaces, whether it's Black women only, women only, age group specific, we get some really vulnerable stories. You get stories of women that have it all and then come to me and start breaking down in tears because, you know, they're struggling with infertility or the career isn't giving them the fulfillment that they thought it would, or they actually want to spend more time with their families, or actually they don't want children at all and they don't have to bring it to their partner. You just hear the wildest stuff. And I don't know why I'm telling you, it's just the freedom of a walk. When you're out in nature and you don't have the burden of pretending, it just allows people to feel something, because I thought, that's right. Yeah, so yes, really, really, I think the more that I see the women do, is the more that I'm enjoying it for them, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's the best thing in the world, personally. Thanks for touching on it, it's fantastic.
On those web pages, so they were really reading, they were really engaging with that content. In addition to that, again, we've worked with a couple of influencers on some hero content, which I think gave that real, authentic, immersive message and helped us reach new audiences. So they were travel projects. So they're two UK adventurers called Charlie and Jess, and My Sunday Best, who's a lifestyle blogger called Sade. And they have a reach of 64,000 between them. And importantly, they're really engaged people on their channels. So they documented their travels around Kent, and they went exploring, tried some of the new experiences. And they also, we also captured, so the agency we worked with captured some content as well, which we have access to. And I'm going to show you the the final step in their journey, but you can obviously check our social channels and you can watch all of the videos.
Right, so we're now in the lovely market town of Tunbridge Wells, so we're about to walk around, check out the shops, check out the lovely architecture.
So we're looking forward to seeing what the buzz is like, sampling the vibe, and yeah, doing some shopping.
So we've arrived in lovely market, as you can see, we're on the beach.
The final stop on our 4-day Kent road trip. It's been a whirlwind.
We've done a lot of stuff that I probably wouldn't have ever thought to do.
So my favourite activity is probably the Tai Chi, and I love learning the mental and physical benefits of it.
If I'd pull one thing out, and not just because it was booze, I like the whiskey tour. I enjoyed learning about it. The guy who showed us around was just brilliant.
One of the things we love most about Kent is its proximity to London, and it's a great place that allows us to get away from the city, get some country air, get some sea air.
I think in terms of why you should visit Kent, well, one reason alone is it's number 4 in terms of the regions in the world to visit according to Lonely Planet. So that triggered our interest initially. But when you get here, you can really see why.
I really wish I had even more time to explore Margate because it looks so cool, and I know they've got Dreamland here as well as all the vintage shops. So I'll be back soon.
Cheers, guys. That's a wrap.
Yeah, so I think they summed it up pretty well, to be honest. And actually, that message around the Lonely Planet Best in Travel accolade is something that we'll be building on and using as the key message for the campaigns this year, because why wouldn't we? So I'm just going to pass over to Rebecca now to take you through everything that the house has been doing. Thanks, Holly.
I think one of the things to say as well, yeah, that's better, isn't it? One of the things to say as well is that the partnership between the Kent Downs and Visit Kent is really important, and there's lots of collaboration between us both in terms of travel trade and marketing, learning from each other and the peer networking. So it's been really beneficial to sort of learn from each other as we go along as well. But the Kent Downs AONB, being involved in this project has taken us on a journey, I would say. So I just wanted to say a little bit about the start of that journey. We had been working with businesses and farmers and landowners on lots of projects, but in a more discreet way. So they might be environmentally based, educational tourism. So what we really wanted to achieve from this project is a step change, really, in how we work with and how we grow a sort of business community that shares the values of the Kent Downs as a national landscape around sustainability, accessibility, landscape protection, but also landscape celebration, and what really makes the Kent Downs special and significant. So that's really been a golden thread running through all the development programs that we've done with businesses. So whatever we've done, we've talked about the significances and the protection of the landscape. But obviously we want what businesses do to reach the right customers as well. So again, our options appraisal really highlighted those particular things around well-being, being outdoors, nature, pilgrimage, farming and producers that really resonated with both us. And so we were on a bit of a mission really to find those businesses and those people out there who really particularly fitted in with those things. So in terms of how we started, in order to sort of build these relationships, it was around building a business engagement and a network really, around mailing lists and newsletters, and the project's really given us an opportunity to talk about building sustainable tourism businesses. We held some webinars in areas that are particularly of interest to us, such as Welcome Walkers and Cyclists webinar, still hard to say, which sort of started drawing people into us and engaging with us. And also starting to build those relationships through Michaela and Alana with trade partners, looking in particular for those trade partners who were interested in sustainable, environmentally friendly experiences. So what that then led us on to is that we then had a sort of pool, if you like, around 800 businesses on our mailing list that we could reach to look at how we might develop experiences that were particularly relevant for us and for them. But we also did some proactive research as well, looking to see who was out there, and sort of reaching out to them and saying, look, do you want to be part of this? So I'm just going to take you through some of the things we've done, which you can see there. And we run an experience maker program, our ambassadors training, our centre place workshops, the itineraries we're developing. A big part of what we've been doing is making our website far more visitor friendly. That's been a really big part. And then just touch on some of those asset improvements as well, because a lot of what we've been doing is actually improving the assets for people to enjoy. Our Experience Makers programme, so as I say, we're particularly focused on experiences that connect people to the landscape. And one of the ways that we have tried to help ensure that that is the case, is that we developed our landscape promise. And the landscape promise is something that we ask businesses to sign, and it asks them how they can help celebrate the landscape and what's special about it, how they can think about, if they're a landowner, for example, how they manage their landscape, or how they can be more environmentally friendly and have less impact on the environment. And then thirdly, how can they share the benefits locally? So is that local food? Is that working with local communities to sort of share the benefits of the visitors with local people as well? So that's what we ask all our businesses to sign up to, and thankfully all of them have. So we've got some really, we know that we're working with really engaged people, because they are generally smaller businesses, and it's generally about the people that are passionate about what we're doing. So our Experience Maker programme, we worked with 33 businesses, and it was very focused on developing that bookable experience. We held webinars, we worked with Unmissable England, who also have experience with national parks, so very useful for us. And we did a formal programme of workshops where we talked about how they apply Kent Downs and what a good experience looks like, follow-up one-to-ones. We've also provided a copywriting service and photography, and also introduced them to some of these routes to market, so Unmissable England and Airbnb experiences. So hopefully we're giving them a sort of start to finish service, so they end up with something that we can onboard quite easily. We also felt that purchasing equipment might be a barrier to some businesses, so we've provided equipment grants of more than £25,000, and that's bought things from canopies and cooking materials and art materials to really help people be able to run that experience. We've recorded all of this and we put it on our resources page. So now we think that anyone who comes along, even though the formal programme is over, anyone who comes along and wants to develop a Kent Downs experience, we can help them with it because we've got those resources online that can be accessed. And just below are some of the examples of some of the experiences that the businesses are working with. And in particular, to some of the people who are here tonight. So Ed, the Rebel Farmer, and I know some of you are going on his experience tomorrow. We've got Sunita, who is doing parties in the woods, and that's a community woodland. So really using that in a different way for the benefit of the community. Scott here is developing a stargazing experience because dark skies is a really important thing to protect in a landscape such as this. And earlier you would have heard from Ginny, who is developing accessible experiences, connecting people with different needs to nature, and she's a forest school leader as well. So what we've been able to do is feature them on our new website, which our new campaign will be driving people to. The second part of what we did was our North Downs Way ambassadors. North Downs Way is a national trail, one of 15 in the whole of the country. And what we wanted to do is find local people to really act as ambassadors and advocates and help people to enjoy the national trail. We had a massive response to this actually. There's a real wish to get skilled up in taking people, leading people out on these walks and to be involved. And we've ended up with about 40 trained ambassadors. We did webinars with them, which told them about the National Trail. We did some practicals. So our training director owns a company called Pierre de Terre Adventures. He go all over the world, leading groups, so really, really qualified to be able to do this. And he's sort of imparted all that knowledge onto our ambassadors. And what this means is that we've now got an online directory where any business, any district, any volunteer group can find a North Downs Way ambassador to come and tell them the story of the North Downs Way. And also some of those ambassadors are also devising experiences. So Ian, who's here tonight, he's developing his experience, or they're turning those into businesses to bring visitors to come and take them on tours. So that's really exciting for us, and as I say, that's it's been really well attended, and we're going to keep giving those additional information. So our GeoPark project that's coming up, we're going to be talking to them about how they make their tours more accessible. So there's a lot of development there to work with. Other opportunities that we provided, so when we're doing anything, so we're running a Pilgrims Festival in September, and we're now able to go to our businesses and our ambassadors and ask them whether there's anything that they would like to do for that. So in any activity we're now doing, we know we've got a really sort of great community out there that can help deliver experiences in the Kent Downs. And we'll be involving those in some itineraries, which again, as Holly was saying, creating, trying to get people to stay longer. So yes, you might go out for a walk, but it's what we call a walk plus. Then what else can you do in the area? Whether that's an experience or a pub or whatever that might be. We also held at the start of this year, just as we were coming out of COVID, so that was interesting, we held our Sense of Place workshop, whereby we talked about 3 new resources around sustainability, agritourism and local distinctiveness. And again, imparting those stories, trying to get people to weave them into their own story and how they can turn that into something that's authentic and marketable to those sorts of customers that are looking for it. And we've also got businesses and ambassadors together through networking. Because, again, getting people out to see what the asset is, to see what the Kent Downs or the North Downs Way is really important, but also loads of evidence to show that walking with other people helps your creativity and helps you collaborate together. So we're definitely going to continue those. So, as I say, what we are working on now is getting as many of those experiences onboarded, online and bookable, and onto our website. We're also going to be talking about how we can get some of the Visit Kent experiences that are in the Kent Downs onto our website as well, so that we can drive visitors to this collection of Kent Downs experiences. Following on from our Be More Outdoor campaigns and some of the other promotional videos and work we've done, we're just about to appoint an agency to do the biggest visitor marketing campaign that the Kent Downs has ever done. So we're really excited about that, and that's going to create some real buzz about what we're doing and make a real difference. We have got collaborative partnerships. Again, as Holly said, some of our businesses are working together really well to develop really nice, environmentally responsible experiences. Our business and pages are going online. And then the final thing I just wanted to say is for us, the learning from this project has been, it's been huge, really. And we're hoping to take this learning to some of our other projects. So as we develop our experiences here, we're also going to look towards, for example, our UNESCO Sites Across the Channel project, which is coming to fruition now. We're really excited. But part of that, again, is developing tourism experiences that showcase the geo-heritage of the area as well. So there's a lot of work to do, but the experience project and working with the businesses and developing them is really helping to realise this potential within the Kent Downs and the North Downs Way for a sustainable tourism destination. Thank you.
think you're absolutely right about the partnership. It's, I think the collaboration between Visit Kent and Kent Downs has just gone to the next level as a result of the project. So, and I love the net walk. I need to come on a net walk. Sign me up. Okay, so can I invite now Ed, Scott and Colin to join us? So, yeah, it's a stop. So thanks for agreeing to chat about the project with us. And I know both of you have been obviously really engaged in everything. So Ed is from Rebel Farmer and Scott's from Wild Classroom. Yeah, both really engaged and get involved in a lot of the activities that we do. So first of all, it'd be great if you could both tell us a little bit about your journey, about the experiences that you're developing.
I'm Scott. I traversed both Visit Kent and lockdowns because, quite frankly, that's what my experience to do. I started up in 2019. I spent the last 25 years teaching, and well, I still love working in the classroom. Right. Yeah, okay, yeah, cool. Normally I get told to take it away. Okay, I started Wild Classroom up in 2019. My background is special educational needs education, and I was really inspired actually by a group of children I taught in probably the toughest school, the toughest class I've worked in, and did a lot of outdoor learning, and we expanded that by doing outdoor cooking, so I really enjoyed this. And I was very lucky to be asked by Danielle, who runs the events at Belmont School, to come do something for Wolfex for us. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do some cooking. And then kind of everything took off from there. On that day, I met so many awesome people that one of them in fact put me in touch with you guys. And we'd love you doing this is a new program for new businesses, and I think it'd be really good. So and obviously that took off, and then obviously something funny happened in 2020. But what's been really good is that I was able to adapt quite easily. So I was able to run experiences in summer 2020 all the way through, even working in schools when we had lockdowns. But I think the only time I wasn't able to work was when actually the schools were shut to all children. But a lot of my experiences are based across Kent. I live in Faversham, so I'm very lucky. I've got so many awesome locations right nearby me. Two being Brockdale Farm and Belmont House, which the world will soon know about on an Antiques Roadshow in a few months' time. So I've been quite lucky enough to work there. But since during the experience program, I've actually met quite a lot of other awesome people like Ed and Ian and lots of other generous. There's too many people that I've met doing this. And I think one of the things you guys talked about was the working together, and it's everything's I found really friendly, cohesive, and I think the best business partnerships are those that organically come about, and I think I'm just quite grateful for the equipment grants as well. I've got there's the future's looking really good. I mean, Rebecca mentioned some stargazing experiences. Initially in 2015, when I was looking to jump out of education, that was my initial passion, and then I thought, no, the equipment cost a lot. I've kind of stuck with the teaching for a few more years, and then I joined up with the North Downs Ambassador training, and that kind of gave me fire in the belly a little bit to actually think, I could really do something out here. And I think, about 3 weeks ago, an email and Instagram post went out about future stargazing events, and I normally get 10, 20 hits on my website a day or something like that. I think I had something like 200, and I've had about 50 inquiries in that first 3 days. People say, tell me more about your stargazing experiences, tell me more. So the future's looking really, really bright. So I've got lots of experience with as well. So.
Amazing. I think what a journey, and I think you're right. The relationships is the thing that's surprised me, and the thing that I'm the most excited with the DCC. And I think what you talked about around how it helps you adapt in 2020 and how you adapted to the restrictions and you were able to still run. So that really good example of adapting to trends.
Yeah, I think the best one I did was I did a business, healthy business assessment, and sent out to businesses. And like, well, we could do something now.
Yeah.
So actually, I've got a few experience of running. Literally, would say we could not get around the rules, but work good.
An opportunity.
So,
yeah, fantastic. Ed,
is this working? Yeah, well, I think my journey's been quite similar in many respects. It's just I'm a farmer, producer. Haven't been producing for that long, 6 or 7 years, but really sort of got into the idea of regenerative agriculture and growing food for community and getting community involved in creating chemical-free produce. And yeah, it was really indeed learning how to grow and really sort of wanting to pass on that knowledge as soon as I gained it, and was trying to find a platform that really was very, because I was so busy trying to learn how to grow produce and to get good at that. When I met these guys and got the opportunity to sort of create this platform, I suppose, it was a real kickstart and sort of where I've got to today, which is sort of feeling now very sort of networked, I suppose, with lots of other like-minded people across Kent, but also just trying to create a sort of a larger platform for what I think is very important, which is sort of a relocalised food system. And they've been so helpful. I had some lovely grant money towards getting a table, which is formulates a sort of centerpiece for everything that I'm doing now. We sort of hold workshops and we eat food around this table. We talk about localised food systems, and we're able to sort of really connect with people and with this object, which is a table. But it's just so very important to sort of have this centerpiece to be able to sort of pass on some of this knowledge, and we do so much around the table. And it's in this beautiful space in this polytunnel just up the road here in the beautiful North Downs area, and just really sort of feeling really confident now we come out of lockdown that we can really build some amazing experiences for people there and inspire people, and I think the help of the King Downs and hoping to link in with this Kent a bit more and get lots of people around this table, so we can really sort of build a future around localised food. So
fantastic example, really getting the tying these those themes and having that positive impact. But I think what you said about you were struggling because of having to diversify and you have the farm. Actually, it's a good example, I think, of how the program's helped you focus and helped you to I suppose develop that new offer with the support of that wider network, rather than having to do it on your own.
That's it. Just that little bit of initial mentorship has just sort of just allowed me to just, I suppose, to dream up this experience now and get it public. Yeah, it's great.
Great. So, is there anybody that wanted to ask a question as well? Is anybody?
Some each one.
Hi, my name's Lindsay. I've got a question as well. So in North, sorry, I'm leaning forward to pick it up. So in Norfolk, we're currently as part of the experience building an observatory, the Dogs kind of school platform. And part of that is thinking, encouraging people who are familiar with stargazing, but also people who've never tried it before and maybe want to give it a go. I'm just interested to hear about your experience, and have you had a mix of people who've maybe done stargazing before or haven't, and just interested to hear who's been looking on your particular
my experiences are generally family centred. What's going to be starting this autumn, late summer, early autumn will be kind of good over time. Dusk, campfire, cook, adjust our eyes to the night sky. And I've had a lot of questions from parents. Can I bring my child? Can I bring my child? I said, yeah, that's what I want, So what I'm trying to build up is a family friendly experience where people can come and enjoy and so a bit of fun around fire. And look, hopefully, because I've had some fantastic support in this, in the UK, we're not always blessed with clear skies. So, kind of, I think a campfire and a bit of cooking is quite a useful trick to have up the sleeve. So, and I know, I've spoken to a lot of people, Rebecca put me in touch with a lovely chap who gave me loads of advice. And it's actually, if you've got something else as well as, don't just count on the stars to come out. But interestingly, part of the experience I've got running as well is actually looking at the sun, because here on Kent Downs, most of the park is south facing. That's literally my inspiration. So, even if you've got dark nights, if you've not got dark nights, you can still look at the sun.
Does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to ask? Catherine.
I was just going, because I know we've got some other businesses here as well who are part of the schemes, and I wondered if any of the other businesses, whether Ed and Scott's experience resonates with you, or if you had anything to add. That you want to Scott. I'll take that as a yes.
I have a question that's, I suppose, around challenges. So what would you say has been the biggest challenge that you've had to overcome?
From my point of view, just sometimes having faith in an idea, going with it, and I've been lucky a lot of people that do go with it. Some locations and this, COVID and some stuff, for whatever reason, it's just kind of, I've always been a sort of person to kind of, go with something.
Go with the flow.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously, I think with COVID, it's very little bit of uncertainty, but
yeah, and everyone's had to live that way.
Yeah.
Have you had any particular challenges?
Well, yeah, I think it's sort of a continuous challenge to try and improve on it, and you've just got to have a plan. As I was saying, to get started and to get some people through the door, get some testimonials, get some feedback, and then develop it. I feel it's always just got to compete. It's continuous development. So it's just finding that time to continuously develop, I think, is a key. Time is always an option. There's always a problem for me. There's a farmer as well, which is it's very year-round hard work, and so finding as your time to continuously develop, I think.
Yeah, it's very much a continuous. That's what I've learned from the project. That it isn't a straight line process, and it's very much a continuous journey, and it will be a journey that carries on afterwards as well. The timeline comes up, because of that exact reason. Everyone has a lot of hats on with it. Yeah, but
and there's definitely like legislation as well.
Yeah.
And I think you have to, you've got to make sure you've got to tick a lot of boxes. As much as you just do anything that you're very.
She's not here today, but there's a lovely lady called Ginny
she was here earlier.
Was she? Oh, was that? Yeah. I've been up. She is one of my fellow brands ambassadors, and she's quite useful to tap into for accessibility. But like I say, my background, like I say, teaching, I think that's quite useful because you've got to, you've got to bear every single thing in mind, really. I know, so some of the locations I've got in mind are actually very accessible. So quite confident.
Yeah, I haven't had too much work today. I want my site is very accessible. Yeah, I'd like to be able to find some help to improve that.
Well, what we can do links to some work that we're doing with a company called Access Able that Louisa spoke about earlier. So they, through that they're focusing very much about providing that information so people can plan ahead and understand what the space will be like so they can make that informed decision. So yeah, we're offering those access guides to be creative for partners, and we've also got some training, some online training about how best to welcome and support people. So yeah, very much part of what we're thinking of supporting businesses through the programme.
Yeah, a lot of my sales are actually through word of mouth, really. I've done a lot of social media marketing, but really, I'd say mainly the venues I work with, we collaborate on marketing the experiences. So I've been lucky that obviously Visit Kent and North Downs also go pitching, put the word out as well. So yeah.
There's a lot of word of mouth, and that is, one of the most common ways that people do find out about things, and that came out in the research actually as well. So yeah, we think having those positive records we talked about, reviews and recommendations, so important.
Yeah, I think it's pretty important to be able to go out and talk, to spend a lot of time talking. You have to do some doing, but you also have to get around and talk to a lot of other practitioners and other educators. I'm lucky enough to be, a producer, so I sort of connecting with lots of venues and people that use those venues as well. So just having that extended network of people that locality and part of the community, it's very important to get people involved.
And I think certainly that first, when you're first launching, having those real local ambassadors and people who can be advocates is so important. And then I think that then the next step to reach those wider audiences is where we start looking at those wider distribution channels. I think, and I feel like that's part of the process. We've got one more. Last one. Go on.
Oui, une toute petite question qui est peut-être pour Visit Kent également. Plusieurs personnes ont parlé des échanges entre porteurs de projets ou entre entreprises. Comment allez-vous perpétuer ce réseau? Comment vous allez l'animer dans l'avenir?
That's a very good question. Obviously, we've developed the relationships through the project, and we obviously have the team in place so we can continue to include those partners within the activities that we do following the project. So we have built those relationships that enables us to include them in ongoing activity. But we are obviously looking at future funding opportunities. How can we, continue to offer the ongoing level of support? Because, as everyone's mentioned, it doesn't just stop. It's an ongoing journey and a process, and we do want to be able to continue that heightened support and heightened process, I suppose, of developing experiences. But that will be around how do we, secure future funding to do that. But in regards to those relationships are there, the team will be able to still have those relationships, and we want to, include the people that have been involved in the project in future activity, because the product is so important. It's exactly what people are looking for. So we want to respond to what the visitor wants. We have a strategy called Visitor First. And it's all about responding to what the visitor wants and ensuring that we're providing that. That's exactly what this project has done and what the businesses we're working with provide. So that's the reason why we would ensure we continue.
Yeah, I mean, very similar, I think. So Visit Kent, one of our big outputs of this, increased visibility for the Kent Downs, and our new website, and some of the connections that people have made. And so ensuring all of that is online, and also we're working with Kent as well to tap into their various peer networks and networkings as well. But yes, I think also looking at how we can continue the work that we've done post-project, embedding the Kent Downs unit as a whole as well, because it's so important for us, and especially with our GeoPark project going forward as well. And yeah, just seeing how we can continue those benefits, but all some of those legacy assets are already in place, which is really great.
So I've been told it's now definitely time for food. So, make sure you've got your voucher, and there's various options available upstairs. But before we do that, I did just want to say a big thank you to Lucy and the team for the coach work for having us over the last couple of days, and also to Michael and Sylvie for the excellent translation. And I apologise if I spoke too quickly.